That was for you, Kev.
Yep.
Save the rebellion.
Save the trees.
Save
the trees. Save the trees.
I was so sick.
Welcome back to Kind of Funny Star Wars in Review. That's right. We are ranking and reviewing every movie in the Star Wars universe. That was a moment, though. Remember the hype going into Rogue One? That trailer playing over and over. And Kevin.
Woo! Remember that? Yeah,
yeah.
Woo! That cool sound. That alarm sound effect.
It made it into the movie. That same siren you can hear when he's killing the dude.
I think it's like a siren they've used before.
Yeah, it is.
Because I feel like they did a really interesting touch with a lot of the sound effects right at the very, very end are the ones you hear right at the beginning of A New Hope. Mm-hmm. So like that where they're all like setting up and the thing starts cutting down.
So, shit.
Really cool stuff.
I'm Tim Gettys. That's Nick Scarpino.
Hey,
we got Andy Cortez. We got Big Kev Dog himself, Kevin Coelho, Barrett Courtney over there on the boards. Shout out to our Patreon producer, Al Tribesman, for coming in, supporting us the only way that he knows how.
The Lone Hunt. I finally saw that he changed his Twitter name to the Lone Tribesman.
Nice.
He did it. He did it, man.
I imagine right now he's making some sort of rudimentary lathe or some sort of like weapon out of a tree.
What's a lathe?
I don't know.
It's a thing that spins.
I don't know.
It's a thing that spins wood. It's interesting. You know, a lathe spins wood.
Cool.
Sure, carve it.
Rudimentary.
Yeah.
I love it.
I saw that line from Galaxy Quest.
I knew it. I knew I'd heard that.
Could you try to form some sort of rudimentary lathe?
Sam Rockwell. So fucking good. So good.
You have a name. Do I?
Let's do Galaxy Quest review, man.
Dude, that movie's so good.
You can watch this show live on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, or you can watch it later on youtube.com/kindoffunny, roosterteeth.com, or listen to it on podcast services around the globe. Just search for Kind of Funny Reviews, where we are reviewing the Star Wars movies week in and week out, in addition to the Mandalorian episodes every week. So that's exciting. Upcoming on Friday will be Mandalorian episode 3. Get hyped.
Chapter 3. Titled, I can't
You'll
remember.
have to wait and see.
I can't remember.
That's a fun thing. Today we're talking about Rogue One, a Star Wars story, released December 16th, 2016, directed by Gareth Edwards. Gareth Edwards is an English film director, film producer, screenwriter, cinematographer, production designer. Wow, he just does a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? Visual effects artist.
I saw him give a talk at NAB one year. Because he got really famous because he did a movie with Scoot McNairy. What's it? How do you say his name?
Scott McNabb.
Scott McNabb.
Scoot McNairy. That's
Scoot
his name.
McNairy. He did that movie. I want to say Monsters. That was what it was
He
called?
first gained
Oh,
widespread
yeah,
recognition
cool.
for Monsters in 2010, an independent film in which he served as writer, director, cinematographer, and visual effects artist. He subsequently directed the 2014 reboot of Godzilla.
Mm-hmm. I remember he gave a talk at NAB like a couple years after Monsters had come out. I think right when he had booked Godzilla, and they flew him out there to talk because he had literally gone out with those two actors and just like figured out places to film. They had some stuff set up, but like there was just awesome moments where he was driving around in Mexico and he saw like people like hauling stuff, and so he would film it, motion track it, and then put like old jet engines and stuff in there, like monsters had attacked and these people had salvaged this stuff. So it was really cool to see him like giving that talk of like, this is how I use After Effects, and I was like, oh, I could be that one day, and I never was.
Here you are. Way better at After Effects than you should be.
Oh my god,
You're so good at it. It's
but
crazy.
Talk about bootstraps, right? Like you go through the eras of people that did it all themselves. You got the Robert Rodriguez's, but Gareth Edwards is really up there with those guys of just getting out there and like, let's just go get something done. And if you ever watch Monsters, it's a very simple film. It's really just about these two people like walking across Mexico during this apocalypse that's happening, but you don't really see them that much because they couldn't afford it. But it's really well done. It's a really cool movie.
I still haven't seen it. I've always wanted to.
It's not like it's very low impact. It's not going to take too much out of you, but it's Scott McNabb, so he's a great actor.
McNoob.
I forgot who the actress's name is.
I've seen
great.
clips of like the special effects, and like I feel like they did a really good job for the small budget that they had because they look really cool.
Yeah, I think I want to film. I want to say he used like this old school like lens adapter for the old Sonys called the Lettuce. Do you guys remember that? It was like this weird adapter that you put in, and then it allowed you to use an actual.
Oh, the 35 millimeter. Yeah, Kev, we
lens.
had one for the Handycam.
Oh yeah,
for the
yeah,
Canon.
yeah.
It's
So
like,
the
the
macro
it's like the
lens.
Wii U heart monitor.
Yeah, there was like we had
sensor.
one. We used to use it at IGN because you would attach it to the real lens, and then it let you actually have a lens that you could get more depth of field out of.
Yeah.
But it had like a mechanical part to it, so it would like make a little noise that would always pick up on camera, which is really annoying.
Yeah, because this was
It's fun
before
stuff.
like DSLRs, so like video cameras couldn't have like camera lenses. So you needed this adapter just to be able to have the
we
the
got it stuck
functionality.
on there. We could never take it off.
We did
Yeah,
get
you
it
could
stuck.
use
Yeah,
prime
yeah.
lenses. That was always that shitty zoom that was affixed. to the
And then he
camera.
killed Bryan Cranston way too early in Godzilla.
There you go. There you
Godzilla, another one of those movies though, were beautifully filmed.
go. Yeah, totally.
It's just I don't think the actual image acquisition was the issue with Godzilla that I had. I just think it was a little too long and it relied too much on
military
Aaron,
bullshit.
whatever his name
yeah.
is.
Ooh, I
Aaron
want
Michael
to suck
Paul.
your blood or whatever he said in Avengers. With that terrible accent that he did.
The director Gareth Edwards also has a cameo
This is the way.
as a rebel on the Tentai 4. He's the one that frees the ship to allow it to escape Darth Vader.
Oh.
So
Oh,
that's
really?
cool.
I
Yeah.
thought didn't he have a cameo in Last Jedi as
He
well?
also
did as well.
That's right.
cameos in the Last Jedi, which we'll talk about next week. And
Sorry,
there's a
future
trade.
spoilers.
No, that's fine. That's a trade where Ryan Johnson cameos in Rogue One.
I would've
So
cut
they-
him out.
They traded there. He was.
I'm like, you got it, dude. Don't worry about it. And then when it came out, I wish you couldn't put you in there.
he was one of the dudes that did the Death Star, like the two guys when the Death Star shoots.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I would
And the
love
giant
that.
full helmets.
Yeah. So that was the director. This is also the first Star Wars movie that famous friends of ours have had a part in. Paula Gallagher, before she
Right.
was Paula Coelho, animated an X-wing or two.
2 X-wings in the
Two
background of one
X-wings, man.
scene. It's
Wow,
so
what's
crazy.
better than one?
Yeah.
Two.
Two.
Pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Not gonna
That's-
lie.
That's so wild.
Yeah, be able to we went to the not the premiere, but like early screening for the ILM people, and yeah, everyone going nuts seeing her name in the credits was like, this is fucking awesome.
was so cool.
But the big one, obviously, Gary Whitta, one of the writers of this movie.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
How crazy is it? Like, I think it's like the third little credit.
Yeah.
That we see is like Gary Whitta's name up there, right next to the Noel guy. That
Well, more importantly, though,
Championed
he
it.
did. So obviously, writing on a movie like this is a huge accomplishment. But Gary laid the foundation for it. He did the story.
Yeah.
So he was. If I'm not mistaken, they approached him and they're like, "We want you to actually write the base foundation story of this." And then the other screenwriters came in and did the actual screenwriting.
So there's a ton. There's a lot of. This is like the first Star Wars movie that really kind of hit points of like a lot of trade offs and a lot of like multi people coming in,
Passing the
passing the
baton.
baton, both
Yeah.
writing, directing, and all that. So I want to go
Literally.
through some of it because it's pretty interesting. John Knoll, a visual effects supervisor to the Star Wars prequel trilogy, and also just kind of visual effects mastermind,
Yeah.
very important dude in that industry. He pitched the idea as an episode of the unproduced series Star Wars Underworld that we were talking about recently for The Mandalorian. And in 2014, or around the time when Disney was acquiring Star Wars, he went to Kathleen Kennedy. He's like, I want to do this. And then that's what's
dude, it's so
the crux
awesome,
of
yeah.
the anthology movies even happening, which is really cool. And then in May 2014, Disney announced that Gareth Edwards would direct the film and Gary Whitta would write the script. That October, cinematographer Greg Fraser revealed that he would work on the film. In January 2015, it was revealed that Whitta had completed his work on the script and would no longer be with the project. Simon Kinberg was considered as a replacement, but later that month it was released that Chris Weitz had signed on to write the script for the film. And then in March 2015, the title was announced. In May 2016, reports emerged that the film would undergo 5 weeks of reshoots, with Tony Gilroy writing additional scenes as well as acting as a second unit director under Edwards. With input from Edwards, Gilroy oversaw the edit and additional photography of the film, which tackled several issues, including the ending. In August, Gilroy was given screenplay credit alongside Weitz and was paid $5 million for his work on the film. Additionally, Christopher McQuarrie from Mission Impossible series, Scott Z. Burns, and Michael Arndt all contributed to the script at various stages in development.
Jesus.
Yeah, so there was a lot going on there. In addition to that, something that we'll talk about later, but I think one of the biggest issues of this movie is the score. First Star Wars movie not done by John Williams, and I feel like it has a couple good moments, but you can definitely feel it. And on top of that, there was a reason that I didn't know. Alexander Desplat was doing the music for this movie. When all the reshoots happened, he was like, I can't, my schedule just doesn't fit this. So he just backed out pretty much last minute. And Michael Giacchino
Giacchino.
there you go.
Yeah.
only had 4.5 weeks to compose the music for the film, beginning almost immediately after finishing production on Doctor Strange.
I
Quick turnaround.
Yeah.
I really dislike a lot of the music cues in this, predominantly the ones that turn the notes toward a major key, because I think there's a hint of hopefulness.
Yeah.
And you're like, and I just I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
But when it's minor, when that theme comes back and it's really like it gets across the point of like, hey, they're all gonna die. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. Totally.
It's just that one cue, especially when you see it's really when you see the Rogue One title, it's like.
But that does come back in that
It does.
later
It does.
in ways that feels off
it's
for what
very,
this movie's
very
presenting.
weird. Because this movie is dark as fuck, and to their credit, this is I think the darkest Star Wars movie we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I love it, and I think it totally works, and I think it's a shame that they didn't want to do more of this. Okay, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that they looked at this and they're like, this is as dark as we want to go with it. Let's start to turn it a little bit back to more whimsical, adventurous, especially with the main trilogy and when we see later with Solo. But man, this I mean, like when you see Cassian kill a guy for no reason, that's straight up like Han shooting Greedo. But we're not gonna retcon that shit. He shoots the motherfucker in the back, and the guy's like, "How do I do it?" He's like, "Don't worry."
Yeah, like I can't climb that. Yeah.
Well,
But it's more impactful because Han is like, oh, he's not really a good guy. He's kind of just a dude that like doesn't like the good guys, whereas Cassian is a good guy.
Yeah.
But I love that though because he is a good guy. But I think this movie, out of all the movies, does a really good job of putting people in the gray area where they have really good back and forth and a really good dialogue between Jyn Erso and Cassian, where they sit and there's that one scene where he's like she's accusing him of being closer to a stormtrooper because he's just following orders and doing horrible things, and he's like, some of us don't have the luxury of caring, like, or getting to care whenever we want to.
Love that.
I've been in this fight since I'm 6 years old. And then she has that great line. She's like, you can't explain this away with words. And he goes, I don't have to. And walks away. And that shit right there,
so
you're like,
cool.
I see
And he
both sides of
stands
this.
around-
Like, you're both.
And then he stands around. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Like,
Anyone else want some shit?
God, I love that whole.
And then he's like, and everyone
back
looks at him. He's got that dope ass Han Solo like jacket on, like the
Yeah.
Han Solo wore from Hoth. And I was like, you got me with that, man.
It's
The costume design in this is awesome as well.
that was right after he like decides not to kill her dad, and the dad still gets killed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was one of those things where it's like, you went up there to kill my dad, and he's like, hey, that was the job. And it
But
was
he's like, I could have
damn,
taken the
it's
shot
crazy.
whenever I wanted.
Yeah.
And she's like, but you were still going to do it. He's like, well, I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
back to the music real quick.
Sorry.
I,
Sorry, no,
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 it's good. It's great.
my favorite cue in all of it is when they start to climb the archives. I love that really like terrifying, sort of weird, dark tone that suddenly takes over because that's when K2SO finally gets killed and it's over.
Oh, man.
And the music
sad.
starts coming like na 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 na. I just love it's just fucking freaky, man. I love that whole sequence.
Yeah.
Well, I love that they were able to really, like from the third act on, you're like, this is a countdown to the end for these people, and you feel it. And there's no like, even when we were watching it, you're like, I don't feel at any point that these guys are gonna make it out of this alive. And there's something so wonderful and fucked up and like validating about that, of just knowing that. You know, like it's like in World War II when the fighters didn't have enough fuel to get back to the carrier, but they took off anyway. And you're like, fuck, that's so dark and fucked up. But like, there's so much meaning in that for the characters to do that sacrifice.
Yeah, I loved. I feel like there was the moment. Essentially, once K2SO, like you realize, like he's about to die, and that music cue hits. From there on, I feel like the stakes just keep getting raised in a way where like you know the results, you can feel the results coming. You don't know, but you can feel it. But I really like how the passing of the baton of them. We understand every plane of action that's going on, whether it's from space down, because it all relates to this one area that they're at.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the way that they had it, where there was the moment where once the thing was destroyed, they're like, oh, we're fucked. We're not getting out of here. Like there's the shield. We're screwed.
Yeah.
And I liked that they committed to that. And then there were the moments where I usually don't like in movies that have like the Uncharted moments where it's every single jump they make, they grab on at the last moment and
Right.
stuff. And it just kind of cheapens when people are actually in danger. This movie has a couple of those. But I feel at the end they did a good job of taking me out of thinking that way when she goes to put the thing in the satellite's not correctly thing and she has to go back and do it. It was just that one thing that I thought that in any other movie I would have been like, oh my God, does there need to be one more obstacle?
Yeah.
But in this I was just like, oh my God, just fucking give them something, please. Give them fucking something.
Well, typical Star Wars fashion, you're like, why would the controls to this dish be out on the fucking thing that's way out there, like with no
Yeah.
safety guidelines whatsoever? I there's a few of those moments. I think the tethering of the connection thing it was a little too much for me on the second time. Or this is my third time viewing it, and I watched it. I'm like, I get we got to give Bodhi something to do, and we got to give the ground crew something important to do. But the idea of like we can't send a signal unless we're tethered into their system.
Let's find the master switch.
I was like, this is a lot.
There's
a lot of words.
Master
that are happening
switch is just the most generic thing.
Master
I've heard in
switch
my
is
life.
generic as fuck.
But I do love
it.
that like to get their signal out, they had to be incorporated into the system, and like that gave them such a good excuse to like show these characters slowly dying one by one, all completing their job and then dying, with the exception of the gunner guy who really was just like, fuck this, I'm out for revenge.
Or Baze, who I forgot. I always Baze him up.
Yeah, like that. Bodhi
guys,
getting
man.
the signal out, and the dude that looks like Admiral Akbar like getting it. Like, that is such a fucking phenomenal moment.
Yeah, all of those layers are great.
And it's one of those things where like, you know, they say Rogue One. I think that's the first time you like really hear them say like the title of the movie.
No, it's when he calls out.
Yeah, and he's like, Rogue One calling out.
This is the first Star Wars movie to say the title in it.
But it's such a poignant moment of them like catching that message and being like, hey, we got it. We're gonna shut down the shield. We'll figure it out. And then he immediately, like, the grenade falls in there. He just looks at it, and I think he says for the.
Bodhi doesn't say anything.
He just blows up.
He just fucking dies, which I love.
Doesn't he say right before the grenade goes in? Doesn't he say like for what's his face, the Jin's dad?
For Galen.
For Galen, yeah.
And it's just like
but when he
that's
blows
so
up,
cool.
though, I love the choice of shot, just him just standing there. It's not like,
looking at it. Yeah, there's no, that's the way out. That's where the grenade is. It's about to go off.
Reminds you of the sniper in Saving Private Ryan.
I mean, and that's by design, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of cues, specifically in the costumes, that are very World War I, very Vietnam, very like. This is a war movie,
Yeah.
and they wanted they wanted you to feel that feeling of the last scene of Saving Private Ryan, which is like these guys are all gonna die, and they're all gonna die for this one cause they believe in, and they fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
Like I love, and it's so not Star Wars, but I love when he comes around the corner, or she comes around the corner, and she looks over, and Cassian's there, and he's got the people that are gonna go with him, and they're all in like Vietnam era flak jackets with like Vietnam helmets. Style. It's either Vietnam. It's like a mix of Vietnam and World War II, but like they look like old school, like soldiers from a bygone era war.
I didn't like that because I like the idea of it if they were mixed in with other more traditional rebel people, because it was just like, oh, okay, so yeah, you got the bad guys that are good. All of them together. They're all the ones that are going to do this. It just felt very, very cartoony and weird. Where it's like, we're all wearing the matching uniforms for this one.
It felt like an old war movie. Like, and that's not something that happens as much, but like, yeah, I feel like Band of Brothers and stuff had a lot of these shots where they would like show all the like renegades that were going to go out there and like save the day at no matter at what cost, you know?
I'm in, and I loved the imagery. It's just where were those guys in any other shot we've ever seen of the rebel base?
That was a little weird.
Yeah.
I mean, we did get introduced to a lot of characters there that were like, we're supposed to care for these people, but I think they did an okay job of like peppering them in and making them support characters for the main characters. I just like that like Cassian A gets to change his costume, which is awesome, and B, every time he does, it's something cooler and cooler. And I like that thicker, like almost looks like armored vest that they give these people to wear. I think it's a cool little touch that to me was like, oh, these guys are ready to go to war at any given time. They're not wearing just like cool slacks and a gun on their side. They're like, they got shit that they can bring into war with them.
For a budget of $265 million, box office of $1.56 billion.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Whew. All right.
Insane.
Just
Green
one
light Solo.
What did y'all think about it?
Runtime of 2 hours and 13 minutes. Kev, what are you gonna say real quick?
I was just gonna say, first of all, I love this movie. I absolutely adore it. I think it does three things amazingly. One, it shows Star Wars having wars in it, which we don't really see. Two, I feel like it does a phenomenal job showing that like the rebellion wasn't necessarily a good thing, or we see like the dark side of that. And then the third one is that it like when it ends, it's like I'm so hyped and ready to watch episode 4. And like I think that's what a prequel should do, you know?
Yeah, I'm with Kev on that. I specifically at one point where they have a moment where they get the alliance together, and the alliance you get is this kind of disjointed grouping of systems that are not all on the same page. And it's kind of like it's it's barely believable, but it works for me. As opposed to like a Galactic Senate where there's 10,000 people all cheering for something. Like this feels a lot more like they just have everyone has a legitimate point where they're like, we can't go up against that thing. We got to scatter the fleet and get out of here and regroup somewhere else. And someone's like, no, this is our last ditch effort to do this thing. And it's like, this is a fascinating argument that you're having back and forth. Also, where did you find this actress that looks exactly like Mon Mothma?
Yeah,
it's
so
amazing.
That is amazing. Genevieve O'Reilly reprised her role as Mon Mothma, whom she previously played in Revenge of the Sith. Jimmy Smits also returns as Leia's father, Bail Organa.
The Smits.
So that is fun. Yeah, I really, really like Rogue One. This is also my third time watching it. And I feel like it is a great movie, but I do think that all the elements that I like about it would have been better served as a TV show, where I feel the first arc of this movie is an amazing first episode of a season, and the last arc of this movie is an amazing season finale, like fucking amazing season finale. I think everything in the middle feels like 5 episodes of a TV show condensed. So there's just kind of moments where I love the characters, and watching them at the end, I really care about them. But I feel like I care about them just because I want to, not because they actually did a good job. Like, them together as a team, I'm like, I don't believe in you as a team at all. Yeah. You're just like, when they all kind of get on the ship after when Jedda's exploding, it's like, cool. Why are they staying together even? You know? Like, it kind of just feels like I would have liked to see a bit more fleshing out of the character dynamics between everybody. And I feel like I would have preferred not having a focus on Jyn, having a focus just more on the team, all of them being equally important, because it kind of just felt to me like we made a lot of jumps because we had to move quickly.
See, I think if you did this as a TV show, it would run its course very, very quickly. I think I'm like, watching this for the third time, I'm like, cool. This is a good self-contained story. I think they did a good job. I think if it was any longer, I would really start to lose interest in what was going on here. Because really, it's just about this one mission they go on. Mm-hmm. Everything else is building up to that. I like that they at least made an attempt to have some emotional connection to Jyn through her father. And I think the way they did that, and the way I think Gary specifically was the one that crafted this little bit, was to have that flaw built into the Death Star be by design.
So brilliant.
I think it was a really, really smart choice, and I think having him have to be this double agent was cool.
Totally.
I think it's
but that goes with what I'm saying though, of the death of, like, did anybody have any emotional feeling when he died?
I think that because
I didn't at all.
I did, because I think they're two really good actors. I think the fact that it's Mads Mikkelsen and Felicity, not Huffman, Jones. I think they're great actors, and I think that that's what this movie is about. Thank you so much. This movie, more than any other Star Wars movie, relies less on the actual effects, less on the concept of having to throw a lightsaber and a Jedi in there, and more on just like, hey, we're gonna make a good movie. Like, there are moments in this movie that you don't see in any other Star Wars film, where like we just sit with the character in silence for a second, and that's not something that you would think. Like, most Star Wars films don't give the characters that space to breathe in the scene. There's just moments where, like, Cassian's just there, and he's just like, you're in that moment with him where you're feeling the gravity and the weight of what he has to do, and it's really, really cool. And you know, I'm kind of that person that's like, I don't want a Batman show without Batman. I don't want Star Wars without lightsabers. But this is the one time I look at it and I'm like, it works because it is that self-contained story, because the filmmakers are so good, and they hired great actors, and they gave them good, like, moral conundrums to put themselves in. So you actually feel when they're yelling back at each other, and she's like, "You were gonna kill my dad," and he's like, "I don't have the fucking luxury of getting to choose when I can care about stuff." That is such a cool, like, back and forth between two characters that you actually like. And also shout out to Diego Luna, who's
I would have liked
awesome.
more of
so
that,
good.
Yeah, I would have liked more. Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of the few movies that does the over-explaining to over-explain something else in another movie. That with the flaw in the Death Star, if any other movie tried to do something like that, where they are not retconning, but
I think retconning is fair.
But
It is what it is.
explaining something for the sake of, I guess this is really, for the purpose of the story, but it could have been one of those things that the collective audience eye rolled at. But for me, when I sat in the theater watching, I was like, wow, that's really fucking cool. And I enjoyed that they actually went for it, Mm-hmm. I think this movie I've liked more and more as I've rewatched it. And it feels, it's weird to me that I feel that way, because usually when movies have a lot of writers involved, when they have a lot of hands and a lot of cooks in the kitchen, I feel like that is usually to the movie's detriment. And I don't get that vibe from watching this movie. I think it's gotten better every time I watched it. The first time watching it, in the first act, maybe the first half of the movie, I just sat there like, I don't know if I like this movie. And K2SO is kind of the only reason why I'm enjoying this at all. And then the third act picked up, of course. These most recent viewings, I just have such an appreciation for the actors and the dynamics that we see, although they're a little bit too few and far between. I think that they are like the weight of those decisions, the weight of those arguments are so like well done, you know.
Also, it's just fascinating to see what they can play with when the characters don't have superpowers, like the Jedis, right? You're just dealing with people that are like spies and this underworld and this like, I don't know. It's got the overall tone of this is just so dark. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
And it's just, and again, beautifully shot. Like we'll get to the plot right now, but the first shot we see is so fucking gorgeous.
Yeah, it is.
And it just
The use of shadows in this movie and the use of scale, I think, is the most impressive. Like the amount of times you see a ship compared to something else,
like the Star Destroyer above Jeddah City,
City.
or
So cool.
the best shot in any Star Wars movie ever, which is the Star Destroyer coming out of the shadows, and you're like, wow, something big is putting this thing in shadows, and then as it pulls back, you realize it's the fucking Death Star.
So
It's
cool.
so cool.
As they put the giant plate on there.
Yeah.
Before we get to the little segue, I guess, into the plot here is some Witta facts for you.
Oh.
May the facts be with you. Gary Whitta also drafted an opening crawl that went unused. Pretty cool. Gary, one of the script writers, filmed a cameo as a Rebel pilot, but it never made the final cut, which
Damn.
is a major
Oh, that's too
bummer.
bad.
And Admiral Akbar was intended by Gary Whitta to lead the assault on Scarif, which would have been awesome. However, J.J. Abrams beat him to the punch and used him in Force Awakens, and Gary was like, Gary was quoted as saying, "We didn't want to use him again after the Force Awakens, so Akbar became Admiral Raddus."
Yeah.
I think that's cool because like it seems like he died. You know what I mean? Raddus. Like at the end of that attack, I don't think they got out of there. It was also
God,
man the scene
terrifying.
where they're all about to escape
And they
fucking
run into the.
Oh, yeah. That last thing I want to say
Vader's
for the
Star
plot,
Destroyer.
I think this is the best space scene we've seen in any of the movies.
Hands
like,
down.
Hard stop. Like the one thing in Force Awakens where when they go to
They do-
Maz Kanata's castle
Poe is
and
doing
Poe's
his thing.
going, that is like a condensed moment that I think is great. But as an overall like set piece battle, I love the way that it's directed. I love the dialogue. I love the way that it's shot. I love the GoPro things. I didn't like it the first time I watched it, but there's something about it of just seeing more movies now where it's like I feel like it fits a bit more.
Yeah.
And I really love how integral it was to the plot at large of what they were all doing.
Yeah.
It felt believable.
I agree, and I think the aerial combat and stuff like that is so tastefully done. Whereas in the prequels, you see shit just everywhere, and in this, you're like, oh, I can follow along. They're going on an attack around the shield thing, and you're like, you feel it when they're like, we can't. That moment when the fucking X-wing bounces off the shield,
Oh my God.
is horrible. I mean,
visceral.
it's so bad. I mean, like in a great way,
Yeah.
like, terrifying. I just think they did a good job with this whole
Yeah,
movie.
it's so crazy that they made force fields feel so like
Like, ping pongs
impending.
off
Yeah,
shit,
and
you know,
it's
like,
just
oh my
like,
God.
oh shit, like yeah, a message can't get across.
Yeah.
A fucking X-wing just got destroyed
And
on
then
it.
there's that beautiful moment where you're like, what's in that ring? And then all the doors open and all the TIE fighters come out. You're like, oh, that's what they hide in that
many of
fucking
them.
thing. A lot of TIE fighters. Probably should have launched those about 20 minutes earlier, but whatever.
Nick will. I don't remember the plot song.
Plot. Go.
All
plot,
right.
plot. This song doesn't
It's
have
the
that song.
A long,
This movie
What's that?
doesn't have that
a
song.
long
That's what
time
I
ago in a galaxy far,
That's what
far away. No, you're not getting the Star Wars logo, ladies and gentlemen. This is something
What are you
different.
getting instead?
We get a beautiful sound cue with a shot of a transport ship landing on a Saturn-like planet. It's got the rings, and the transport ship looks so fucking cool. Do you think that Vader saw that and was like, no, I gotta have a cooler one than this because that's too cool? Because it has a little tiny fin on the top.
War of
Anyway.
escalation.
It's so rad. A young child, Jyn Erso, runs
Reddits.
back to warn her parents that their cool underground hippie igloo, there's people coming, and also there's blue milk there, but they don't beat you over the fucking face with it.
Yeah, they
like
do punch in on it real
Yeah.
hard.
This movie, I think, is a definite ride of fan service of working and not working, and the delicate balance, I think, is.
I don't
Having
think
a
that
picture
moment,
of blue
yeah.
milk there didn't take me out of the
It's
scene.
not the
at all.
same as-
It's not like he's stuck on the the tit of a giant fucking. Anyway, okay. Jin's mom calls Saw Gerrera and tells him that it's time. It's finally happened. Mads Mikkelsen, who is now Galen Erso, calls Jin over and tells her that whatever he's going to do, he's doing to protect them. He calls her Stardust, and it's adorable. And you're like, that's cool. Maybe he'll do that 15 more times in this movie. Outside, Orson Krennic lands, played by the formidable Ben Mendelsohn, who is fucking awesome in this movie.
He's such a good douchebag.
I just feel like he brought something to a Star Wars villain that we haven't seen before, which is like the unabashed
Pettiness.
suck up and
Yeah.
pettiness, and he nails it. But he's also like, he's such a good actor that you just want to fucking punch him in the face. But also you don't, because
so
you know he's
true.
gonna fuck you up if you do that.
Visually, I love this. I love this movie starts where it's just like, we're going to use colors differently than we ever have. It's going to be a much more drab movie, a lot of gray, but we're going to make sure that other colors pop accordingly. And like, I love the so much green grass.
Green, yeah.
And when they come and he's wearing white with the black Death Troopers,
Yeah.
so cool.
So stark white with a dope ass white rain slicker on, and that's like half cape. You're like, dude, I want that outfit.
Yeah, he's such a good
He's so
douchebag.
cool.
Leading up, I mean, even leading up to the moment where Lisa runs, he's like, "Oh, she's alive! What a miracle!"
Yeah,
like I love that line
knows.
of dialogue.
Yeah, so Galen goes out there to meet him, tells him that his family's dead. He doesn't want to work for him again. And he's like, no, come on, man, come work for me again. You're like, he's not really asking. He's telling. And the Death Troopers are awesome. I love that he only brought like 5 with him. I was like, I don't need more than this. I could 2 would have sufficed, but we'll bring a couple extra just in case. Meanwhile, Jin's mom gives her a necklace and tells her to run, but instead she doubles back to see if she can help her parents. Krennic wants Galen to come back. Work has stalled. We are this close to providing peace for the galaxy, and they have a great line where he goes, "You're confusing peace with terror," and he goes, "You got to start somewhere." It's like, fuck, dude.
Once again, just nailing this
So he's like, well, you have to start
horrible
somewhere.
villain. Yeah.
Like he knows. He's like,
Yeah.
I know, I've got you. I found you. Like you're done. Liara, I think is how you say her name.
Oh, Liara, that's what I meant. yeah.
Tries to intervene, so they ice her, and Krennic's like, "Oh, she's alive." That's great.
I said Lisa because of Death Stranding.
"Yeah, that's fair."
Which I like. Why did they kill her? Like, I guess she takes a shot at him, but like, it's just one of those things. Like, why would she take a shot? They've won. She's not gonna get him out of the situation.
And also, what
You
do
know?
you think like the odds that her little shitty blast is going to pierce through one of y'all's like armors or whatever?
I don't know
You
because we've
Yeah,
never really
yeah.
defined what armor does in the Star Wars universe. Sometimes it's great, and sommes it does absolutely
The
nothing.
blaster will
If you're a
kill 'em.
stormtrooper, it's just plastic.
Yeah.
and it's actually probably hindering your experience. They blast her. And then Krennic orders his troops to go find Jin, so they can basically use her to convince Galen to do
Bargaining
whatever they
chip.
want.
Yeah.
So Jin bounces and hides to her hiding place down a giant bomb shelter in a cave. There she waits for someone to get her. Finally, footsteps approach, and who opens the hatch? It's Saw Gerrera. He opens the hatch and he tells
Guerrero's
her.
cousin.
Guerrera, excuse me. I don't know why I put Guerrero here.
Latino heat.
There it is. And he goes, "We have a long ride ahead of us. We have to go." And then we're like, "Oh, cool. We're going to see her grow up with this guy." Nope. We get the Rogue One title flash, and the music is terrible, and it's very hopeful, and you're like, "Nah, that's not what this movie is." And then Jin wakes up years later in jail. Must have been one hell of a long trip that she went on, because we haven't seen anything that's going on there.
I feel like that doesn't matter. They do a good job explaining that, like, yeah, she then was raised by this militia like terrorist.
Then
Forrest Whitaker has weird moments.
Till she was
in this
16.
movie.
Forrest Whitaker's character in this
Yeah,
is
like,
highly
it's-
underutilized,
yeah.
in my opinion.
But I do.
And it's
I didn't
weird.
like
I
any
do
of
think
them
that he
moments.
has his Saw Gerrera accent for 70% of the time, and then he just dips into Forrest Whitaker for the
little bit.
rest of it. And it's a weird mishmash of dialogue, you know.
Then we're over on the Ring of Catherine. And thanks for the context here, filmmaker, because we get a lot of titles over
Dude,
screens.
I
and
love
I'm
those
like,
shots.
I don't know that we need all context for everywhere we're going, but
We
it's okay.
definitely do. And that
Yeah.
adds to the lore and all
And,
the cool stuff.
like-
But the weird thing is, this is the first Star Wars movie that says the titles of what planet they're on, with the exception of Mustafar, which is very weird. There's one planet that Darth Vader plays.
I think we're just
part
supposed
of
to
that
know
is
that's
because
Mustafar.
I get it, but why?
But if
why
you're
would
gonna-
you title every single planet but not one?
It's a good point, because they titled Yavin 4, and you're like, we've seen this a lot. So we know it's Yavin 4, right? Ish? I don't
Was
know.
that not a cool moment when you see it say Yavin Form? Like, oh shit, we're going
I love
back.
it. I love it.
I'll tell you what, though.
also-
Didn't like the font they used.
Oh, no,
Like,
man.
I guess I just always think of Avengers.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and Guardians
How
too.
dope they
you know,
are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was done. That was done as almost like a fuck you to titles where it just says space.
Yeah.
Anyway, we catch up with Cassian Andor, who's played by Diego Luna, who's meeting with one of his snitches. The snitch tells him he's heard news of an Imperial defector who knows of the Empire's plan to mine kyber crystals on Jeddah so they can power a new weapon, a planet killer. Someone named Orso sent this guy, and he claims to be a friend of Saw Gerrera's, and he gave the defector these plans. Then two stormtroopers find them. Cassian blasts them, but the snitch has a broken arm and can't climb to safety. As more stormtroopers approach, Cassian makes the hard call to ice that dude's whiny ass. And you know what? To be honest,
it was the right call. It was the right call.
The world doesn't need him.
That shot.
But again, another great character moment where you're like, whoa, you just committed murder. You just killed someone that was trying to help you, because if you didn't, then the stormtroopers would have found out what he knows, because this guy's obviously not going to hold up to torture at all. So he had to kill him, which is sad.
Cassian's acting in that scene, like right after, like you see the not regret, but like the weight of like his decision that he just made, and it's like so well done. Very excited about Cassian's show.
Then we head over to Jeddah, the Imperial occupied moon. Bodhi Rook, who is the pilot, the defector, is being taken to meet Saw Gerrera, and all the costume design here is awesome. I want to give a shout out to some of the nods that are in there. Love the one's wearing a blacked out kind of scout trooper mask, which is cool. And then another one has either a rebel helmet or like the helmet that Bosco wore. It's very similar to like the stuff that we saw in Return of the Jedi, which I thought was cool. They throw a bag over his head and take him in. As the camera pulls back, we see that the base that they're taking him to is actually the giant statue of like a fallen Jedi statue,
which is weird,
crazy weird, but whatever.
Well, that whole planet was covered in those statues. Like they've been knocked over all over.
I didn't love that.
Oh, I dug it.
It seems oddly out of place for the Jedi.
Yeah.
And the only reason I said that is because the Jedi aren't supposed to be about vanity. And you think erecting 4,000 feet statues of yourself in stone would be like the opposite of that, where you're like, I really want to see what I look like on Mount Rushmore. And that's not what the Jedi are about. But either way.
I mean, that's not what we knew the Jedi as from what we've seen of the Jedi movies. These seem to be like really ancient, like Jedi, like temples.
And maybe if someone was just like this, I'm bored. Ooh,
There's just something about it looking like a Jedi that to me just seems like just out of place.
I feel like since then, though, we've seen a lot of stuff like that where, like, the Fallen Order, like, we have a bunch of, there's moments where you see these giant Jedi, like...
Future spoilers.
Meanwhile...
Well, I mean, I'm not saying anything more.
Jin's being taken on to an Imperial work camp. The transport stops, and the door blasts open, and a bunch of rebel fighters come in to free her. How does she repay them? By beating their asses. Luckily, K2SO is there to fucking clothesline her ass into submission.
We are saving you.
He goes, congratulations, you're being rescued. Please do not resist. They take her over to Yavin 4. The
Alan
Rebel Alliance.
Tudyk, the goddamn MVP of this.
It's great, man.
He's so good.
And they take her over to Yavin 4, the Alliance headquarters. Thank God for all those titles. Once there, Mon Mothma, am I saying that right? And General Draven reveal her true identity as Jyn Orso. She was being held under an assumed identity, but we knew exactly who she was. Jyn Orso, they want to make her a deal. Cassian wants her to introduce them to Saw Gerrera. He wants an introduction. They know how to find them, but they need someone to get them through the door without getting them killed, and she's the only person that they know that he knows. Saw is an extremist. Also, he loves huffing that laughing gas, so he's very, very dangerous. They need to get the Imperial defectors so they can know what he knows, and also do a couple of whippets courtesy of the old Saw Gerrera, you know what I'm talking about.
He's such a Borderlands villain.
Saw Gerrera?
Yeah, he's just like this weird, let me huff on this
the way
thing.
he yanks down the cable, too.
Yeah.
He's so, like...
If they can find Saw, hopefully they can help. He can help them locate Galen, so Galen can testify before the Senate and close the Emperor's plans down for good. Which actually seems like a much better idea than just stealing the plans and trying to destroy the Death Star. But it's interesting that they just kind of threw that touch in there, where like if we get him, we can actually take him and like convince all these planetary systems that what the Emperor is doing is bad. And if Jyn helps, they'll make sure she goes free. Once Jin's like, okay, sign me up. Once on the ship, K2SO tells Jyn straight up that it's a bad idea that she comes. And I love how blunt he is in this entire movie.
I like that they also like explain that away with like, yeah, since he got reprogrammed, he doesn't really have the internal monologue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside,
Like Golden Girls.
General Draven pulls Cassian aside and gives him some additional orders. He's like, listen, we can't take the chance. If you find Galen, you got to kill him. We can't risk him staying alive and doing whatever he's doing with the thing. And normally this would be one of those moments where like the shitty FBI guy agent's like, hey, I'm telling the main character what to do. I know you don't want to do
my
this.
jurisdiction.
But in this regard, I'm like, okay, this actually kind of plays because we don't know what he knows. We don't know if he's good or bad. He's worked for the Empire for a long time. We can't with any certainty say that he's a good guy because we have no evidence to prove that. So if you get a shot, take the shot. And so you kind of like, I like that. I'm like, okay, it's believable. Let's see. Once on board, Cassian lets Jin keep a blaster. She's like, and K2SO is like, this is a bad thing. And he goes, well, trust goes both ways. And then he goes, would you like to know the probability of her using that against you? It's high. Very high.
Yeah. I love his hand gestures there.
So good.
The music here is awesome. It stays minor the whole time, which is really, really cool. The movie is dark. It looks awesome. Back on Gettys, Saw interrogates Bodhi Rook. They found a thumb drive in his boot, but Saw wants to know if he's lying or not. So he calls over the Borg.
No, before we go to that, like, how cool was it? They're like, oh, we found this in the thing. And he's like, I can hear you. I'm right here. They didn't find it. I gave it to them to give to you.
Yeah.
So obviously, I think we're all gonna have issues with the CG fucking
Borgullet.
whatever the hell
Why?
it's called.
Borgullet.
It's stupid. It's silly. It doesn't scare you at all. But I feel like their intent with it was to make Saw seem like he's
Paranoid
a good
and
guy,
crazy.
but he's paranoid, crazy, and an extremist, and like he goes too far and whatever. It doesn't come across that way, and it just feels distracting and silly. And I wish Saw Gerrera could be so cool, so great. His group can be so scary. They're not at all.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
think
because of the stupid monster.
But I also
Also-
think we get too little of him to like explain. Like, we just get these little glimpses of like, oh, this guy's just kind of crazy, and his team seems to be lying and like helping him get crazier. You know?
Also, the point of the monster was to see if he was telling the truth, which he was, but then
It also
Saw
would make him
what-
crazy.
And then it was going to take his memory away, but then after that happened, Saw never seems to believe him anyway, and then he gets his memories back. So
Yeah.
that whole sequence feels really
Useless.
pointless.
But I think that whole sequence was to help define Saw as like a crazy person
They did
who's,
it poorly.
who's lost it. Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of the scene in Mission Impossible, the first one, where he's like, if you fire that hard drive up, they're going to be on you in like 6 minutes. And she's like, all right, we'll see. And they have that moment where she has to test him. I wish they had something like that, where he's like, I can't tell if you're telling the truth, so we have to like take some assurances. But this thing coming in and like Vulcan mind melding with him just didn't work.
Yeah.
This whole scene is
Yeah,
just
yeah,
kind
it
of
was
dumb.
dumb. I wish this was
Another
cut.
dumb
yeah.
monster.
But he does have that thing where he's like, I don't know if I can trust you.
Little
Laughing
tones.
gas. All right. Then we get the coolest shot in this whole fucking movie, which is the Star Destroyer coming out of the shadow of the Death Star, on which Krennic is meeting with General Tarkin, who does not look good. And I really wish they had figured something else out for this,
It would've
because
been-
I hate this whole fucking. I hate anything that he's in.
It would have been so cool if they had kept the shot over the shoulder on what's his face,
Just the reflection.
and just the reflection on the mirror,
Reflection
and
and hologram.
That's
Yeah.
all I
And
thought it was
from
going
the
to be.
back.
I thought it was just going to be that.
Like I think that ILM was really proud of the work they did, and it's really cool, but it's not quite there. The skin texture just looks wrong, and like they focus so long on that shot.
I was a defender of it a lot more when I first saw it in theaters, of it just being cool, because it is cool that Tarkin's in this. But watching it now, it's like it does not work.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just one of those things where I'm like, if they found an actress to play Mon Mothma,
That was the same actress.
Well,
that
from
was not the
Revenge
same
of the
actress
Sith.
from A New Hope.
From Return of the
100%
Jedi.
not.
Return of the Jedi.
No.
Right?
No,
Oh,
God,
I'm
no.
sorry. I
It
thought
was
that's
30
what you-
years earlier.
I thought that's what you
He
said.
was talking
Sorry.
about Revenge of the
Revenge
Sith.
of the
No.
Sith.
Got it.
No, they found that actress, and it's like I don't think that Tarkin, that actor, was so monolithically important to the story that they couldn't have just found a guy that looked like
Well,
that.
they found a guy that looked like him. I didn't write his name down, but they found a dude that did the motion capture and stuff, and then they added it on.
They
top
should have
of
just
it.
kept that guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because it's one of those things where I'm like, I get that we wanted to see Tarkin again, and we get that he's an iconic character, but it didn't need to be the same guy. Unlike Leia, where if you'd have recast a young Carrie Fisher, it would have taken you out of it. You'd have been like, I don't understand who this person is. It would have been very confusing. I mean, we would have figured it out because she had the cinnamon
Yeah.
buns on her head and the white robe, but. You can't. That's a much more important choice to make. With this, I'm like, this guy's on screen a lot.
Yeah,
and
I
this
don't know.
effect
I
looks
feel
bad
like
a lot.
Tarkin is such a unique looking person and is so iconic. One of the few characters even in A New Hope that I feel like you can't just recast him. But
Tyrants
I
are
do
our
think they
men.
should have been wiser about how they used
him.
used
Yeah.
him.
Sirens are on our end. I think he looked good in about 30% of his shots, mostly where he's not talking.
Yeah.
But there are a few shots that really bug me as somebody who's like a stickler for CG. There's so many different shots where his teeth are not being shaded, where his teeth are not catching shadow from anything. It's just it's almost as if they are not, like they're on a different lighting layer or something.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Krennic, And Krennic's, has the correct shading because he's a human being and actual real lighting, but it does throw me off quite a bit.
And it's unfortunate too because Ben Mendelsohn's performance across the board is awesome, and I would have loved every time he's acting like when that first scene where it's him and Mads Mikkelsen, and they're two phenomenal actors. And there's like and they're just like he's being cordial to him, but there's just this underlying ominous fucking presence that's there. It's so rad. We kind of get that a little bit with this, but I wish it would have just been. I mean, just put two actors in a fucking thing. Let's get a balding guy. It's done. He's Tarkin. We get it. Like, stop doing this shit. Because they're only gonna do more of it, and it's never. I've never seen one movie where this doesn't take me out of it.
Get Doug
I
Jones
feel
to add
like
some
Terminator
cheekbones.
Dark Fate was the first time where I've seen this, like that face effect done very well.
That's
where
fair.
It's like, whoa.
That is fair. That's
holy
the first
shit.
time. But like it took
Which
me
is
out of
exciting.
it in Blade Runner. I was like, oh god damn it, why did you do this? This does not look good.
I do.
looked
While
good.
we're talking about the CGI like fakes, I feel like when I originally watched this movie, I thought that the Leia scene was way too long, and it still feels a little long. But
It's way
like,
too long.
it's not as long as I remember it, and it's I think a little bit more forgivable.
Well, when you're in the theaters, it felt like 2
Yeah.
years.
That's one of those scenes where they should have just.
Oh, Jesus. Fuck, I forgot. I guess so.
How you doing, eh?
Good, man.
Everybody over here.
Really?
They stay talking. Ah, they go.
What do they go?
They go, Leia. Where water?
Yeah, where's water?
Water
Good
on
question.
this, huh?
Yes.
Tim, what race is water?
Toydarian.
And how long a Toydarian live, huh?
What?
How long did Toyo?
It's so funny how it's like you can clearly hear him when he's on the other side, and then it gets close and it's in your
How
ear.
long a Toydarian live, huh?
I don't
How long does
know.
it
I don't
live?
know how long do they
It's a long
live.
time, Andy.
Oh,
I
okay.
live a long time,
Okay.
man. Why am I not in this movie? The Mads Mikkelsen, they're talking, the Leia.
Sounds like a New Yorker talking.
Where the water?
Where is water, yeah.
Huh?
I want to respect Watto for one reason right now is that he decided to do the Italian chest hair out, which is great. If we can get a couple gold chains in here next time, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Please don't
You
touch him. Please
You
don't
didn't
touch
need
him.
to take the shirt off to put the costume on, but I respect that you wanted to stay arid.
Every week, Watto here shows.
I didn't know. You know what? I feel like it's just.
You want in there?
No, I just
Look
feel
at
like
his
it's
eyes,
because
they're
you have a lack
closed.
of
It's
chest
so
hair now because of
scary.
the bat symbol. I'm noticing your chest for the first
Watto,
time.
91 years is the lifespan.
I pop up in this movie. I go, hey, what do you know? Hey, you on the Rebel? I know a Rebel. His name Annie. No bigger than a pumpkin ass.
Thank you, Watto.
Thank you, Watto.
Ladies and gentlemen,
man.
Watto.
Thank you, Watto. And also, where were we at, Nick?
We are on the Death Star with Tarkin. He's pissed. He was like, Krennic, you got to clean up your mess, buddy. You've made time an ally of the rebellion, which I thought was a cool line. And he's like, we got to kill two birds with one stone by testing this weapon out. Let's do it. Jin has a flashback moment where she's young on Coruscant, which I think was like, this is
So cool.
so cool to see.
Yep.
Because it's the first time we've been on Coruscant where it looks like a real city as opposed to like just a CGI mess. And then she sees, a flashback of her mom giving her which I assume is a kyber crystal.
Yeah.
Around her neck. And then her dad saying he'll always protect you. Stardust.
Her mom in early scripts, like early drafts, was a Jedi, but they decided not to go with that.
That
It
would
was
have been
not make it
smart.
clear
because
but-
she would have fucked those guys up if she was a Jedi.
Yeah.
Instead, she just barely knows how to use a blaster, apparently.
One more
they
thing
took the
I-
opposite approach to it.
One more thing I noticed about whenever Tarkin is on screen, it probably isn't something that was actually done, but I just noticed it for whatever reason. I feel like they really upped the film grain to make it feel like more
Yeah.
like he's in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
to
that's
kind
how-
of mask. You
They,
know,
put,
what I
they were
mean?
like, this doesn't look good. Put a noise filter.
Yeah.
Put it on a noise filter.
Yeah.
And then it took forever to render. Jin wakes as they approach Jeddah. Once they land, they spot a Star Destroyer protecting shipments of kyber crystals being taken out of the temple. They tell K2SO to stay back and head into town. And he's like, okay, yeah, why would I not come with you? I'm just an Imperial droid that looks like all the other Imperial droids. Like, cool, I'll hang back. Meanwhile, Bodhi tells the Boar Gullet, a giant, Bodhi meets the Boar Gullet, a giant squid that can feel your thoughts. Unfortunately, side effect, you lose your mind. Cassian and Jin walk through the town and meet the dude from the cantina on Tatooine. and I don't
well,
love this.
No, it's bad.
It's
Yeah.
just
So
not, it was
here's the
a
thing.
not a smart choice.
Cameo stuff. Rogue One utilized Saw Gerrera, a character introduced in the animated television show The Clone Wars, as well as featuring cameo appearances of the Ghost and Chopper from the animated series Star Wars Rebels, and mentioning Hera Syndulla from that series. Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba are these characters here that we meet, Nick. Ponda Baba being the...
my friend doesn't like you.
thing.
I don't like you
And,
either. I'm going to get my
Dr.
hand cut off in about 10 years.
Dr. Evazan being this dude. So I thought this was horrible, totally unnecessary, and just like takes you out of it. Some background on them though
guess not
is
10 years
really,
back.
really, really cool. So he's this doctor that focuses on like weird surgeries that you're not supposed to do, like cosmetic surgeries. And there's a lot of characters, and a lot of this got cut from this movie. There was going to be more of a plot going around this, like total background stuff of different aliens that like clearly are not right, including a bunch of people whose heads have been taken off, like from the nose up, and were replaced by like androidy things, kind of like Lando's dude
Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Like RoboCop.
from
yeah.
like RoboCop, but Lando's dude in Jedi.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that, but like it's really creepy looking. They decided not to go with it because it was too
That's
scary.
probably a little too fucked up.
Yeah,
But that's cool. That was
so
smart
instead,
choice.
they just went with a cameo that was
Really out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like, that guy make it off the planet in time? I guess so, because
Yeah, he
like,
must have.
literally the next day or like 3 days later, we're going to meet him on Tatooine, right?
Yeah.
So whatever. While Cassian goes to talk with his contact, Jin overhears Chirrut Imwe, who is played by Donnie Yen, tell her to trade her necklace for a glimpse into her future. And she's like, how can you see any of this stuff? You're blind.
blind.
And he's like, I'm fucking Donnie Yen. That's why.
That's why I'm
I'm it, man.
It was
I'm
his
that
idea
motherfucker.
to be blind.
So cool. Such a cool touch.
What a great
Yep.
great concept. He tells her the strongest stars have hearts of Kyber crystals, or Kyber rather. Cassian tells her that the guy and his friend are guardians of the Wills, protectors of the temple. It's the first time I think in the main movies that we've heard of the Wills, right?
Yeah.
Too bad there's nothing left to protect. These guys are just hanging out being bums. They come across an Imperial shipment that's about to be ambushed, and then shit goes down. Saw's rebels attack the convoy, and Jin saves a small child. The guerrilla fighters get the upper hand as an AT-ST comes in. Overwhelmed, Jin takes out a baton and just fucks up a whole group of stormtroopers.
Real
Where you're
cool.
like, it's cool, but like, again, what do the helmets do? If the helmets can't take a hit from a baton, like people get hit with sticks in this and they go down. I'm like,
Yeah,
let me
Chirrut
just
is
be a
fucking
stormtrooper without
everyone
this
up.
stuff.
Chirrut is destroying people with a goddamn Donatello staff, and I don't understand how are these stormtroopers getting? We've seen the NFL. We've seen
But we haven't
helmets
seen
hit
them go
other
up
helmets.
against sticks.
Yeah.
we
You
have
know what I
not.
mean?
True.
This is a great scene. So
Just
as
300-pound men.
as they round the corner, they see stormtroopers coming at him. Jin decides to take out her cool baton that Jennifer Lopez had out of sight and just starts fucking them up.
Yeah.
And they get the upper hand, but then K2SO comes in and saves their asses. And there's that great moment where like one of them throws a grenade, he just catches it as he's
Oh
talking,
my God, so
throws it
good.
back at him, and the way they animated K2SO in this. Where it's like there's a scene later where he whips around and shoots someone, and
Yeah.
it's so precise. It's that machine precision where there's, similar to like IG-88 in The Mandalorian, or IG-11 rather. Very, very cool design.
I
here.
do love also right before K2SO comes in, another one of those security droids comes in and she shoots him in the chest.
And he goes, "You did know that wasn't me, right?"
Yeah, but he says it in like such a accusatory way.
Yeah.
And it's just so fun. She's like, yeah, of course I did.
They decide that they're going to head over to the troops. Like I think this is where they kind of have a little subterfuge, where they're like in chains, right? And he's like, "Oh, I'll just pretend like I'm escorting you."
They're not in chains, which I think is really funny because he's like, yeah, I'll just pretend I'm escorting you.
Yeah.
And like the stormtrooper walks up and he's like, where are these prisoners going? And he's like, they're prisoners? Like asking.
Yeah.
It just.
And Cassius starts
his
talking,
back
and he
and
slaps
forth.
him in the face.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Shut
I got a
up!
fresh one for
I'm
you."
taking them to prison." He's like, "We'll take them from here." Of course, the jig is up, and they're like, "Oh fuck, we're caught." Thankfully, Chirrut interrupts as he chants his mantra, "The Force is with me, and I am with the Force." And then he just
beats the
fucks them up, and it's really, really cool. It's a cool concept because it's the first time I've ever really thought, oh, there might be other Force sensitive people out there that aren't trained as Jedi, but kind of can still feel it and still understand that if they let the Force guide them, it'll put them in the right spot.
I believe that the Guardians of the Wills were people that didn't have enough Force sensitivity to actually become Jedi, but still were Force sensitive and were picked up by the Jedi Order, and they were put in like places to like protect.
I love how vague it is.
It's
Yeah.
like a golf coach.
I love that there's the question of
They gotta
Just
have
like
what it
does he have the
takes.
Force or does he not?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
He
Like,
definitely does.
He definitely does.
Yeah. The
It's
other
cool,
guy
man.
doesn't.
Well, the other guy doesn't believe him, which is his
Yeah.
partner Baze, I think. But I just, it's one of those things where I'm like, if only you could figure out how to take that stick and turn it into a lightsaber, because he would be a bad.
Well, he wanted that
motherfucker.
kyber crystal for a reason,
Guess
right?
so. He fucks them up, but a whole new crop come, and he's like, shit. And then luckily his friend Baze Malbus brought a fucking minigun. So he just
such a
takes
cool
all
gun.
those guys out. Always cleaning up your mess, Chirrut. When are you going to get a fucking blaster? And then Chirrut's like, I'm blind. He's like, well, fat lot of fucking good that force does you if you're blind. You know what I mean? Like, get a blaster. It doesn't matter. Before they can all get to know each other, a bunch of sauce people come and grab them. When they get taken back, Jin name drops her daddy, and Chirrut has the best line of the whole fucking movie when they put a blindfold on him. He goes, "Are you kidding me? I'm blind." You just hear it kind of off screen. He's like, "I'm blind."
I do also like that we get a moment when the Saw Gerrera people are attacking, where we see Cassian shoot someone that was throwing grenades, and it was going to land right next to Jin. So he protects Jin, but also becomes an enemy of Saw's people.
Yeah, he kills
Where
one
it's
of the
like,
guy-
no,
the-
he fucking killed one of us.
Yeah. And that one guy especially like kind of notices like, oh,
Yeah.
I
We
you.
see him notice it, yeah.
Back at Saw's lair, they meet up with Saw, who Jin gives him shit because apparently Saw left her behind when she was 16. And he goes, well, people were starting to figure out who you were, and you could have been very valuable leverage for them to use against us, because once they figured out you were Galen's daughter, they would have used you against me. Then he takes another nip of that sweet, sweet night-night juice and accuses Jin of coming there to kill him. And you're like, wow, this guy's really paranoid.
I
from
love
all the
that.
years.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's a really cool moment. Like,
kill
it's
me?
a cool character moment for him where he's like, you see fear in his eyes,
Yeah.
and you think that, like, you can tell from his perspective, he thinks that's the end for him right there. He's like, oh my God, are you serious? You know,
But it's also like he's so hurt by the
betrayal,
like,
yeah.
that like, did they send you to like? There's still doubt whether or not like, but like you get the understanding that like his relationship with her is much deeper than he has with most people. So it's like, yeah, what a cool moment.
Jin tells him that she's not there to kill him. She's there just, in fact, to make an introduction, and then she's the fuck out. And then Saw's like, wait, you don't want to stick around for this rebellion? You can stand to see the Imperial flag rain across the galaxy. And she goes, it's not a problem if you don't look up. And he's like, touche. Now I trust you implicitly. Speaking of looking up, Nick Way, up in space, Tarkin and Krennic are ready to fire the weapon, and they're getting into it. Who has the bigger dick? They're having a pissing contest here, and he's like, does Vader know about this? And he's like, slow your fucking row, okay? Because I'm Tarkin. Vader doesn't like, I'm saving you from the embarrassment of having Vader and the Emperor watch you fail again. And he's like, I'm not gonna fail. And he's like, you're a bitch.
That's pretty much what he says.
Then they target.
Yeah.
Then they target Jeddah City. Cassian discovers the pilot in the next cell, and this dude is bonkers. Cassian presses him for the location of
No
Galen
reason.
Erso. Yeah, it was dumb. They should have just had him be fine, because he's fine like
Yeah.
5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And he apparently gives him the location of Galen Erso anyway,
When
which
he's
I
old.
don't remember there being a scene where he's like, he's on this thing, but he just knows at the end of the scene. So
this is also like your Han. Why can he see now?
Totally. It is.
Yeah.
And I can't believe
Very
they
much
brought
so.
that back.
Saw shows Jin her father's message, and in, of course, the masterstroke we talked about earlier, we discover that Galen built a flaw purposely deep within the system of the Death Star. It's a great scene. You'll need the structural plans to the Death Star so you can find the exact location of the reactor module. One blast to any part of it will destroy the entire station. The plans are in the data vault in the archives on Scarif, to which I would have replied, why didn't you just put the plans in the message?
Or why
here?
not just say this vent?
Yeah.
You know?
Just give
But
me
it's
the
fine.
grid location of the
Yeah.
vent, and we'll take it from there.
The idea was that he didn't want to give away all the information in case that message got intercepted.
That's fair.
You'd have to have people look through all the plans, and like that would take time still.
But
know?
you assume that
Oh, because the Stardust thing was like a password.
Yeah, but you assume that they have enough manpower that even
There's
if
a
they
clue.
intercepted this message, they'd be like, look through everything and like just let's look through all the plans again because we'll find it. They got millions of people working for the Empire. There's
also,
like
it's the one
20,000
thing that
people
like
on the
connects to
Skyrim.
everything. You
Yeah,
know?
it's like okay, well we know it's a reactor
Oh.
module. How many of those are there? 10. All right, let's start researching backward. Maybe just put a little fence up above all of the reactor modules from now
But
on.
how cool was it that like now we have an explanation why this vent exists that you shoot at and
Mm-hmm.
it blows everything up? Awesome.
Meanwhile, outside, the test goes real well. Good one, Krennic. Jeddah City is nuked, and a massive shockwave is coming their way. Cassian breaks everyone out and tells K2SO to come pick him up fast. They break the pilot out, too, and grab Jin, but Saw is too worn out to keep hustling, so he just stays behind.
Awesome visuals.
For
I love
no
all the
reason.
visuals here, especially when they're flying through all the debris.
He couldn't get
It's-
out of the
it's a
building
cool
in
scene.
time.
I feel like they could have picked K2. Could have just picked. Someone could have picked him up.
Yeah.
I don't know why they just left him behind. This is a weird choice to me. I was like, what? This guy's a super valuable member. He's been fighting this war for a long time and has a lot of assets. And his name alone like carries so much weight.
Yeah.
Save his ass. Get him to back. Why would he not want to go back to the Alliance and like help run?
Because
shit?
I feel like he's fighting on the wrong side. Like I feel like he's not really with the alliance.
Well, he's an extremist. They
Yeah.
they say how
cut
he's an
ties
extremist
with him, yeah.
But you think he still has value. But either way, they're like, we can't afford Forrest Whitaker for the rest of the movie, so just let's kill him off here.
They had to kill him off somewhere. He's not in the rest of the movie.
Of course, as they run to safety, he calls back toward them, save the rebellion, save the trees. Outside, the blast has sent a literal tsunami of like earth.
I do want to say though, there will be a portion of the people that view this are not core kind of funny fans,
Right, so they
and they
don't
will
know.
not understand that. But I love it.
Well, you know what? They can Google it. It sends a giant tsunami of Earth their way. K2SO brings the ship in just in the nick of time, and then they punch it. Saw takes off his laughing gas and instead inhales that just wall of dirt coming his way. Cassian, as they're trying to escape, just makes this. I love this part because it's not a big deal they make out of it. It's not like it's a moment. They could have made this like, oh god, we gotta escape and all that stuff. He just goes, fuck it, I'm punching at the hyperspeed.
Yeah.
And they just punch right, and you see the ship leave the planet in hyperspeed. It's really, really cool.
This is the U-wing, right?
I think so.
They're in-
Yeah.
So to design the U-wing, 781 different drawings were done by Doug Chiang's design team before they settled on the final look.
It's cool.
They pretty much went through every single letter. Like there's an image you can see that you see a ton of them, and it's like, what would a C-wing look like? What about a D-wing? What about an E-wing? Like a ton of them. I love the ship, like the design of this. You can see the X-wings have the two different formations. I love the two different formations of this, where it like kind of like flips back
That's
that
very
way.
cool.
Tight.
Can you
Cassian.
imagine drawing 700 different versions?
I mean, if that's my job, I'd be like, this is
Yeah.
awesome. Just get to
I
sit
feel like
at
by
LucasArts
version
all day.
by
Just write.
version like 150, it's no longer awesome. You're
You gotta
just
figure
like,
he's got 10
"Fuck it,
people
it's
that are
cool,
doing that
guys.
with him."
It's cool. Like,
Yeah.
look at it. It looks
At
good.
150, you're like, find one.
we're just making changes for the sake of changes
Yeah.
at this point. Cassian makes the jump to hyperspace as the Imperials watch the haunting explosion on the planet Surface below. It's a fucking beautiful shot because we hear this. The cut here is great. It's just crazy. Everything's going nuts. They punch out and then it's just quiet, and you just see the bloom
it's
of
so
this
great.
giant explosion on the planet, like miles below them. It's fucking rad.
And then you see him just be like this is awesome.
Yeah.
It's like that's fucked up.
And then
The shot, like when we see the Death Star coming towards Jeddah, of the Death Star upside down,
So
like
awesome.
addressing what you talked about in
Yeah.
New Hope about how it's always perfect. I feel like this movie does like this is where I think the fan service stuff like actually is in service to the movie, where it's like the dumb little things that we've always wondered or thought, and I feel like that's why Mandalorian's working so well for me too, because I feel like they make those smart choices instead of just throwing everything in the kitchen sink of like fucking Baba Yetu or whatever the hell his name is
Baba
here.
Yetu.
It's like, oh, the Death Star is upside down. That's cool.
Yeah.
Tarkin apologizes to Krennic and tells him, "Hey man, I was wrong about you. That's awesome. And guess what?
My bad, bro.
Thanks for making this weapon possible. I'm taking control now."
Love it.
And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Well, you still fucked up, and there's still a leak out there. And guess what? You got to go plug that leak." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "The pilot was sent from Edu, the same place that currently houses Galen Erso and his team." And he's like, "God damn it, fucking Galen Erso." Cassian radios back to Yavin 4 for new orders. They found Galen Erso on Edu. Was there a scene where he goes, he's on Edu, or did we just skip past that?
I think we just skip past
Galen?
Yeah, I don't remember anyone telling Cassian where Galen was.
Isn't it Bodhi? Because Bodhi.
Well, yeah,
Bodhi,
but
I
we
don't think
don't
Bodhi
see
ever
that.
goes, "Hey, I got this message from Galen. Galen's on Edu."
I think that we just assume that like that's
Yeah.
where that happens, right?
Yeah.
So he radios back, but the order's still saying, "Kill that traitor piece of shit when you get a beat on him." The pilot and Jin have a great scene. Your father said I could make things right if I was brave enough, but he goes, "But it's too little, too late." Or is it? She's seen the message. Cassian doesn't believe. She's like, "I've seen the message. It wasn't too little, too late. You delivered it. There's a flaw. We can stop this thing." And Cassian doesn't believe her since she forgot the thumb drive. He's like, "Do you have the message?" She's like, "Fuck." It's like when you leave your house with like, my cell phone.
It's the
Damn
worst.
it.
Yeah. I
Worst.
left my wallet at home right now. I was like, man, if I got stopped by a cop, I'd be like,
You'd be screwed.
man.
Really quick, we got a help from Kebab. Says Jin says he's on Edu. She learned it from the message from Galen.
Cool.
So there you go.
Right, but before that, Cassian calls in and says, "We know he's on Edu," and no one told him. Like we have a whole scene where he's like, "Go to Edu and kill him."
Yeah, but
and then this next scene, she goes, "I know where he's at. He's because of the message."
Happened off
It's just,
camera.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But it's one of those weird things. Where I was like, I don't remember anyone telling him that. How would he have known? It doesn't matter. We can assume the pilot let it slip as they were escaping or whatever. Let's see. So Jin wants to send a message about the flaw, but Cassian's like, no, we can't send that to that's too big of a piece of information. We're deep in Imperial territory. If we send that, they'll pick up on the fact that we know we can't risk that. We need to go to Edu and just get your dad. And she's like, cool, I'm all for that.
Something I really enjoy about this movie as well is the choice of planets they go to and like having them have purpose, where it's like Jeddah being this kind of more spiritual thing, but also having the Imperials clearly overtaking it, trying to get mine all the kyber crystals, and then have this other planet be the place where they distill it and where they actually like more factory based. I just think that it's little choices like that it makes it feel less like the pulpy, well, we got to go here, we got to go here, we got to go here. It's like it gives it a bit more purpose.
It's good galaxy building, where it's like suddenly all these places have purpose, and instead they could have just done it there, but it's cool that like they have this base that specializes it, because they're not, I'm sure they're also getting kyber crystals from other areas,
And it's nice, too, from a visual standpoint. Like, Star Wars always does this, which is great, where you go from, like, an ice planet to a jungle planet to a desert planet. It's cool just to see the different environments. And this, of course, is just this crazy, rainy planet of Edu, where they land and they go, and it's nuts. Bodhi tells K2 to stay low and K2 to stay underneath the radar. I'm sorry, they don't land. They get into the atmosphere, and they're trying to navigate toward it. Bodhi's like...
the silent cartographer level in Halo.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that means. They crash. And they lose contact with the Yavin 4. Seeing no other choice, General Draven orders the squad of X-Wings to go take out Edu. He just takes a hit out on Edu. He's like, we don't have a choice. And again, this is one of those moments where I'm like, yeah, I guess it's believable. If you don't know that your team made it in, you send another team in there to just nuke everything. Kind of cool.
I think there's too much to risk.
Yeah, there's just too much risk. Cassian tells everyone to stay back while he and the pilot head up to the ridge to see what they're up against. Back on the ship, Chirrut asks if Cassian has the face of a killer. And everyone's like, that's weird. Why would you ask that? He goes, because his weapon is in sniper configuration. And Jin's like, fuck. He's going to go kill my dad. I can't let this happen. Up on the ridge, Bodhi points out Galen. But before he can get a shot off, Krennic lands in an even cooler ship than Vader's.
One real quick, just to go back to that whole sniper. It was K2 who said that. And I just thought that was really weird. And kind of like, Chirrut saying, does he look like a killer? And then them being like, no, why? Like, I love that whole thing, but then K2 being like, he did leave with his gun in sniper configuration.
Yeah, I don't feel like he would have, like, K2 and
Rather his
Cassian
boy
are
out.
supposed to be like,
Right, he's
the
got
partners.
no filter,
Yeah, I guess.
He just blurts out immediate thoughts like, oh, yeah, he is a killer.
It would have been cooler if Chirrut, or if Baze had said that. Well,
No, you're right.
Forget.
Baze should have said it.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
If Baze would have said it, it would have been like, oh, that's cool that he can even know that because
Yeah,
the Force
'cause
or
he's
whatever.
got it.
But that would have made a lot more sense than the robot.
Chirrut's the Force
K2
one.
saying it.
Baze is the big
the gun
guy.
expert.
Gotcha.
And I feel like Chirrut should have been like he has the face of a killer, and Baze should have been the one that
Gotcha.
talked
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
weapon.
Krennic lands and tells Galen to gather his crew so he can congratulate them on the successful testing of the weapon. But of course, when they all get up there, he orders the guards to kill them unless the traitor comes forward, which Galen does at the very, very last second. Cassian has a shot, but after seeing Galen come forward to protect his people, he can't take it. Krennic fires on them anyway, and then slaps Galen to the ground. And this is when it solidifies to Cassian that Galen is actually a good guy, and that Jin's telling the truth here, which is good. Jin climbs up the platform and then takes out a stormtrooper in what is simultaneously the most elegant and incredibly violent takedown I've ever seen in my life. Because she takes his leg out and he falls, hits his head, and then just falls to his death. I'm like, God damn, girl.
See it coming.
What's up? Let's see. Before she can get to her dad, the Alliance fighters begin their attack and blow up the platform. TIE fighters are dispatched to engage the enemy, and all hell breaks loose. Krennic's guards pull him aboard the ship. Chirrut uses the Force to take out a TIE fighter, which crashes into the main Imperial defense cannon, which is a cool scene.
Such a cool scene. Him pulling back that giant bow and arrow looking thing.
Yeah, I don't know where he got it from, but it's cool. Jin reaches her father, who is a little worse for the wear, but is still happy to see her. She tells him that she saw his message, and he's very happy to hear that. He tells her that the thing must be destroyed, and before he can say anything else, he dies.
Shot down by the Alliance. I just love it, man.
Yeah.
Such great storytelling. with
Tragic.
All this.
Cassian blasts his way up to the platform and grabs Jin as Baze lanes down, covering fire from the ridge above. Bodhi and K2 come in with a stolen Imperial ship, and everyone bangs out. On the ship, Jin accuses Cassian of going to kill her father. He's like, I had every chance to pull the trigger, but I didn't. She goes, well, those are Alliance bombs that killed him. And then Cassian's like, I had orders, and Jin's like, and this is that scene I was talking about where she's like, you're following orders. You sound like a stormtrooper. And he said, we don't all have the luxury of deciding when and where we get to care about something. Suddenly, suddenly the rebellion is real for you. Some of us have lived it. I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old. And she goes, well, you're not. He's like, you're not the only one who's lost everything. Some of us just decided to do something about it. That's what he says. That's like a big fuck you to that. Anyway, great scene. Krennic heads over to Mustafar to interrupt Darth Vader's jacuzzi time, and boy, is he not happy about it. This shit is naturally warmed by the active volcanoes outside. You know how hard that is to pump this shit in? This is my time. That's what I would have told
He's
him.
like, my
I think
skin
that'd
is
be
dry.
Man, this I don't think I've in movie history ever seen a scene that can be this good and then just utterly ruined by one line.
So bad, that line.
Choke on your aspirations.
But
so stupid.
seeing Vader in his little like
Cryotube thing.
yeah, like man, that looks so cool. And having this dude like go and like get him and like have a message, but also be fucking full of fear.
Yeah, so some fun things here that I was reading about. Gareth Edwards, the director, was like, one of his few requests going into the movie is just like, I want the tube that Luke was in Empire, or I guess, no, Return of the Jedi,
That was Empire.
No, Empire.
Empire.
Yeah,
It's the end of Empire.
I want exactly that tube. He's like, I want that. And I want Vader, and I want to see more of him, like as a without legs and arms and stuff,
Yeah.
just like messed up, and like that's super rad. And the dude that talks to Vader, weird inclusion to just have this random guy. Like we don't really need him to be a named character or anything, but like I just thought it was kind of out of nowhere because it does leave some questions like who the fuck is this guy? Theories are that it's one of the weird people that are following Vader in the beginning of Jedi when they first land in the big ship, and it's like you see the Emperor with the red guys, and then it's Vader.
Oh, okay.
There's just like a bunch of like cloaked black people behind him.
Other like
Cloaked in black.
admirals or
Yeah.
like, other people, other ranked officials. I
Yeah,
guess.
like, just like weird cult people. I think is
Oh,
what we're
okay.
getting there.
Vader, of course, gets dressed and meets with Krennic and tells him to make sure that Death.
He gets dressed.
Where are my boots? I can't find my other sock.
Like, Krennic's waiting. And he tells Krennic to make sure the Death Star isn't compromised. When Krennic pushes to make sure he's still in charge, Vader just force chokes the shit out of him. And he says, be careful not to choke on your aspirations.
Boo.
Now
Boo.
that's a
You guys
dumb
not-
line, but like this scene, I think is so cool and
I
so
agree.
fitting of this character of Krennic to be like, go back to like the boss's boss and be like, hey, you know he's doing this, right? And like it's not fair because like I made, and it's like you're such a little bitch.
That's great, and him being choked and like the way
Yeah.
that they showed it was so good. And
Yeah.
just the
The line
line,
is so
the line and the
stupid.
turn and the showing that he's doing. It's like we didn't need any of that.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems like the
I-
type of thing that would bother you more than
The line
anybody.
is
Yeah,
so
I don't,
stupid.
it's a dumb line, but I mean this scene is kind of unnecessary to begin with. But I think it's important that we saw Vader before we see him at the end, obviously.
Yeah.
Because you got to set up the character a little bit here, even though we all know who Darth Vader is. But I felt largely this scene was just included to be like, hey, look, it's Vader, and I'm like, all right. Once we hit that line, I'm like, have him fucking levitate something. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's Vader.
I halfway agree with you because I feel like we didn't need it. Like Vader could have just been at the end, and we would have all been totally fine with that. But I agree with Kevin where it's like it is Krennic's story of him going to the boss's boss and being a bitch.
And it also, I think it does establish that now Vader's like, oh, I should be on the lookout for what's happening here. You know, and like I think that this is
Interesting.
the
Yeah.
major reason that he appears at the end, where it's like now he's aware that something's going on, where before he didn't or he wasn't.
You should just walk back in it. What a funny choke. And then it's like that's what give us
Do you-
more choke puns, Vader. Like
Do you think that if Krennic had like laughed at the joke, Vader would be like, I knew it was good.
Like around the corner, the dude in the cloak was like, good one.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to humanize Vader. Like let that be Return of the Jedi's job. You know what I mean?
Vader's had some like this is a zinger, and that's what
Yeah.
you guys are responding to. I totally get it. I'm not saying it's a great line, but like Vader's had moments like that before, where he's just like, remember when he choked the guy out, and then the other guy, he's like, well, you're in command now, and the guy's like, fuck. Like there are those moments. I think that's what they were trying to go for here. It just didn't. I think it was a little too heavy-handed, a little too ham-fisted.
Yeah.
I've
But,
always thought those moments were not meant to be comedic and more like,
well, they're fucked up.
yeah, how utilitarian he can be and like how quickly like this is done, you're in charge, don't fuck it up or that's gonna happen to you.
And I think, I don't want to. I don't want to render this criticism, but I'll say I don't think James Earl Jones' performance here is the strongest that it's been. with a lot, and I think a little bit of that's the dialogue, but a lot of it's the blocking of the scene and the fact that it just kind of goes on a little too long, and it's just not as intense as it should have been.
I also think it's just probably due to age as well. He just sounds
Yeah,
off. He sounds
just
off
doesn't
as
sound.
Vader.
It was the same thing when you hear him in Lion King. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, you sound
Yeah.
old.
And
You don't
it-
sound
it-
like a spry dad. You sound like a
And it
grandfather
reminds
now.
you, and it's kind of depressing of like, fuck, James Earl Jones is really old, and you just
know.
you dread the day.
I know it's gonna be terrible.
Yeah.
But hopefully they can just keep him in hibernation and bring him out for Vader and then put him back in. Just let him sleep a little bit. Bring him out. The Alliance, meanwhile, over on Yavin 4, debates what they should do, but nobody wants to believe there's a Death Star. Some deny it. Some want to scatter the forces or surrender. Jin tells them all that they're being a big bag of wusses. She wants them to send their best people to Scarif, but Jimmy Smith is there too, which is cool. So Admiral Akbar number 2, who's Admiral Radis, he's like, we should put up a fight. But since they don't have the full support of the council, Mon Mothma puts the poo-poo on their plans. Jin tells Baze and Shuret that the council didn't believe her, but luckily Cassian did. He's turned a new leaf, and he's like, you know what? I've done some terrible shit in the name of the rebellion. If we give up now, it'll all have been for nothing. I've rallied a bunch of hard-looking motherfuckers behind me, and we are going to go with K2 over to Scarif. And then he says, Jin, I'll be there for you. And then I love this line, because as they're about to leave, K2 so goes, Jin, I'll be there for you. Cassian said I had to.
I feel like a lot of people have have had problems with the fact that like she goes from not supporting the rebellion to very quickly supporting and being like the loudest advocate of it. I feel like rewatching it now and trying to pay more attention, I think that they did a good job setting it all up and having her and Cassian have that thing of like, well, you're not doing anything to stop this. You're just letting everything go by. At least I'm doing something. Really like helps that like. That's why I think we get so much intensity from her at this moment.
I thought it was believable. I've seen criticisms like that, and I'm like, I get that it happens a little fast, but to her, she needed that moment of closure with her dad to be all in on the rebellion, and seeing that he made that sacrifice, and then her saying, "Hey, we found the plans," and he says, "You have to destroy it." I think to me, that's the powerful moment where she goes, "Cool, I'm all in." And then when she goes back, granted, she's talking like she's been leading a rebellion for the last 80 years. But I don't mind that that impassioned and emboldened speech that she gives, where she's like, "You have to believe me." What I think is cool though, also, is that I think they set up very, very well, where there is a little bit of doubt. Like, your dad was the guy that built this thing. Why should we believe you? We don't have the message, and the only people that do believe her are the ones that have been fighting alongside the entire time. I think it's totally fine. A bit rushed, but to me, I'm like, oh, fuck, let's get to the end.
But again, I
let's see
think
Scarif. Let's
that
go.
while it does feel a bit rushed, I feel like there's a good amount of setup to it.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh, okay, she's turning a new leaf and really doubling down on fighting with the rebellion.
They take off in the stolen Imperial ship, and man, I love all the costume designs in here. I mentioned it before, but I love that they were just like, fuck it, let's make them look like Vietnam War era, like badasses, and then because they're gonna go fight in a jungle, which is the coolest thing ever as well, or not a jungle, but like on the desert or the beach, tropical, I guess.
Tropical beach.
Thank you. Let's see. Oh, okay. Before the ship can take off, though, the dispatch radios in and asks for their call sign, and Bodhi doesn't exactly think fast, but he's like, Rogue One, and K2SO's like, you fucked that up. Like, just FYI. Just to let you know. Mon Mothma asks Jimmy Smits. She pulls him aside. And we have a cool little scene here that's needless, but total fan service, and I'm okay with it.
See, this to me is not needless. This to me is good fan service, where it's kind of like just it's subtle and it's like kind of just adding.
Or at
They
least
don't name things. They don't
Yeah.
like. It's kind of one of those. If you know, you know, and if
Yeah.
you don't know, this adds a lot more context.
it's at
to
least
what's going
subtler
on.
than throwing CGI Leia face into your face really hard. You know.
That is fair. She asks Jimmy to send her old friend a message saying we're going to probably need his help on this one, and you get that it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. She goes, "Do you have someone you can trust? Deliver the message." And he goes, "I sure do. I trust this person with my life
Hell yeah!
because she's my baby."
One of the greatest uses of the score, where you hear the Force theme, and then you hear it transition to Leia's theme.
Awesome. They approach Scarif, and Bodhi does some fast talking to get them through the shields. And this is cool. I mean, it's a little bit of an homage to to Return of the Jedi, but of course in Return of the Jedi when they did this, Vader knew who they were,
Yeah.
so he led them through on purpose. But in this one, the guy's just a fucking idiot that works the base. I get it. A lot of ships in and out. Also, Edu did just get destroyed, so it's kind of believable that they had been rerouted there without being told. You got to figure there's a lot of bureaucracy here that shit slips through the cracks a lot, even though their uniforms are very tight.
A lot of red tape.
A lot of red tape. Let's see. They do some fast talking. Once they get through the shield generator, the tension's broken a little bit to celebrate. Cassian and Jin have a let's bang real quick before we die out there look toward each other, and it's fucking hot. Like, Tim, is it hot or is it super hot?
It's pretty hot. I'm all right with how they dealt with them, but I just felt like it was kind of unnecessary.
It
But
is
I
a
also
tw-
get that it's like they didn't push it far enough that it was an issue.
Yeah.
But
They have a moment where we either like each other or there is attraction there, but I'm glad they didn't push it any farther than that. I could have done without this. I think that the two actors just had that chemistry together where they were like, we're
Yeah.
two great looking people.
I buy that.
And I'm like, okay, I want to watch these people have sex.
Yeah, same.
But I like that on the beach later, it's not romantic.
not at
Right,
all.
right.
It is.
But that's why I feel
we
like
have
this
an
scene-
affection for each other,
Right,
but
and
because
it's like, this is
we're,
the end.
This is
we
like
did it.
humanity
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like, I'm like, thank God
That
they didn't. I thought they were gonna make them
perfect.
kiss, and I'm like, don't do
Yeah.
that, because that would just destroy all the stuff you set up with these two. Once on the surface, they see the Citadel Tower. If the plans are anywhere, they're probably gonna be in there. Jin gives a Braveheart speech, which honestly does not instill confidence at all, because she's like, we're all gonna die, but don't worry, we'll get the plans out. And the guy in the back's like, what was that first part? The first part. No, go back to the first part. We're all gonna die. Okay, just letting you know. I'm out. I'm out of here. Get me out of here. I'm gonna go on the other side of the planet. Cassian tells everyone the plan. K2 himself and Jin will go look for the plans, while Chirrut and Baze cause a diversion and draw the stormtroopers out. They trick some Imperial idiots into coming aboard and then knock them out and take their uniforms. And I like it because Jin's like tiny, but she's
So
wearing the
tiny.
cool little thing.
I love it.
And then I also love that they did a touch where the visor opens and you can see her eyes like later. Well, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like
They
a
also
pop-up.
very violently beat the shit out of these people, where like the helmet kind of comes off
Yeah.
of one dude, where it's like, oh shit. Yeah.
They enter a cool people mover that takes them to the tower, and then K2SO starts to say, I have a bad feeling about this, but they cut him off, which I love.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
Everyone can't say that all the time. It's a nice little way of saying we get it.
I know,
We're stopping with the homages.
I like them saying it in every movie. I feel like this movie was good because it's not a saga movie. It's an anthology movie.
but it's also a nod to like, we get it.
Yeah.
We say it in
Yeah,
every movie.
totally.
Well, it's a little side. We're like,
I thought it was
stop
fun.
talking.
I thought it was
It's
fun. Yeah.
I would like to imagine that one of these stormtroopers or one of these people, these what do they call them in Fallen Order? These imps,
yeah.
Empire or whatever. I think it would be really cool if one of them was like Finn. Like we were mentioning how Finn is like, obviously a rebel and he wants to leave the Empire. If one of these guys like is about to get his ass kicked, like no, wait, what? I'm on your. Let's do this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm down.
I don't like him either.
Hey, my bad. Let's go.
I fucking hate this shit.
My dream is to open a coffee shop. Cassian and Jin sneak through the Citadel, and it's fucking so cool seeing the original like trilogy style hallways and the little droids and come across. I know we've seen it a lot, but I just love that this specific era they found a way to go back to the X-wings and all the look and all the stormtrooper costumes of my youth.
I nailed it.
It's
great.
cool to see it in 4K, like
Yeah.
or
Oh, man.
like
Well,
a
cool.
with modern cameras
And
HDR,
cool to see it
yeah.
with the budget that Lucas originally wanted for it, but didn't necessarily have. They go through like 8 different hallways. You're seeing all the scope and
Yeah.
all this cool shit. You're seeing more droids like K2SO. You're seeing all these other stormtroopers and all these other like costumes and stuff that you're like, what's that? What's that? What's that? It's just cool. Cassian orders the rebels. Let's see. Oh, okay. So as they sneak through, K2 is like, he's like, we got to find how to get there. And he's like, you know what you got to do. So K2 literally eats the fucking
that
brain
dick
of
out.
another droid. He's like, "Rah, rah, rah." And then he goes, okay, well, I've got the plan, the path to the vault, but it only puts 89 stormtroopers between us and the data, which gives us a 33% chance of success. And I like that he's constantly giving them the odds,
Yeah.
just like C-3PO used to do. A little bit too much in this movie, but it's okay. This,
I think every time they do it, it's funny. Where it's like,
so Cassian goes, cool, I got a plan for that. He orders the rebels outside to light shit up, and the diversion does the trick. Stormtroopers start pouring out of the Citadel in droves, including some desert resort stormtroopers, who you have to assume serve great cocktails. These guys are like, okay, cool. You got all Stark white stormtroopers, and you got some guys in khakis. Why not? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Tarkin gets
Love
the
they're
mess-
on a beach.
Yeah.
It's such a different look for anything we've seen from Star Wars, and especially for it being the darkest Star Wars, for it to be on the brightest set we've seen, with the exception of Hoth, I guess. Very, very cool.
And it's cool, and again, harkening back to like old war movies. This is like the
Normandy.
No, this is more. I mean, I'm thinking more. This is like the Pacific campaign where they had to take like the tropical islands,
Yeah.
like Guam, and you had the Midway. You don't have to take Midway, but like when they had to fight against the Japanese, you have that. That's what this kind of feels like, which is really really cool.
And the AT-ATs are also like different colors and
well,
you
they're
know.
different. The ACT, I think, right?
Oh
Yeah, because they have they're like
The
cargo droids,
yeah,
yeah.
cargo,
right?
yeah.
Which is cool. Tarkin gets the message that Scarif is under attack and puts 2 and 2 together. The original plans of the Death Star on Scarif. Yeah, well, let's blow that motherfucker up. I like that their solution to everything is just blow it up.
Blow it up,
Well, it's
man.
just I think that like with this, the Death Star being basically complete, it's whatever. We don't need this shit. Like, let's just go destroy it.
But there's gotta
and
be
then
someone-
No one will
It's
have.
their new
But there's
toy,
gotta
dude.
be
They're just
Yeah.
stoked to use it. It's like when you've got your car for the first time and you're just like, I just want to drive.
But you have to imagine that they're like, Target, pump the brakes because we have other plans for other giant weapons there that are like really important also, but don't blow it up. Also, there's like 1 billion people on this planet. Like, fuck it.
Yeah, but
Kill 'em all.
but they don't
But
give a shit
they're
about
only
that.
using the city blow up version, right? They don't, like.
It's true. I mean, that is an
Yeah,
important.
he
they're not,
does
they're
say,
not
like,
planetarily
one.
Because
blowing up.
Alderaan is the first time they ever test it.
And he does say that where he goes when they test it the first time, he goes, I want a more measured, like controlled test, and that's when they blow up Jeddah. And then of course we get the shot later when the Death Star is coming up over the horizon. It's fucking terrifying.
cool.
Let's see. Yavin 4 also catches wind of what's going on in Scarif, and that's just the momentum that Mon Mothma needs to send the fleet in, which we get a little cute cameo includes R2D2 and C3PO, and I love it. It's just enough where he's like, "We're going there." Nobody ever tells me anything. That's it. We don't
Yeah,
need to. We don't need to see
I
him.
enjoyed it.
R2 doesn't need to come out from the fucking wings and save someone's ass and shock
Fucking
someone, do
jetpacks
something
and-
jetpack and all. We
No.
just see him there.
We're
We're like,
there.
oh, cool.
Cool.
That's how they got there. We didn't need to know that. They could have just started on Leia's ship. Doesn't matter. It's cool to see that little.
As this all goes here, Rogue One sets up how Luke eventually gets the call sign Red 5. The original Red 5, Pedrin Gal, was killed during the battle over Scarif, meaning that when Luke gets involved with the rebel assault on the Death Star, he takes up the vacancy in Red Squad.
Oh, that's awesome.
So cool.
Which is great. And Wedge Antilles makes a cameo of sorts. The voice actor for the character, David Ankrum, was brought in to act as the public address voice for the scenes featuring the rebel base. He can be heard telling the rebels to board their ships.
That's awesome. As a bloody land war ensues down on the beaches, K2, Cassian, and Jen hack the vault door. Bodhi pulls a nice trick with the radio and just starts like telling everyone, "Oh, we're on this platform. We're on this platform." And everyone's like, "What the fuck's going on?" Which is cool. Chirrut and Baze run as the entire rebel fleet comes out of hyperspace above them. Admiral Vadas has all the squadrons call in, and this is just a cool scene. I love when they do this. Red leader standing by, blue leader, gold leader, all this stuff. I would want to be on red because red is the coolest squadron, but let's be perfectly honest, blue is dope as shit.
Blue is the dope. Blue, going back to a fact be with you from A New Hope, it was supposed to be Blue Squad, and they couldn't because of the blue screen effect.
So they did red.
So that's why in this movie they're like, we're fucking using blue. And
Red
the
one is
very,
cool, though.
very, very cool thing is that so many of the pilots here are actual old footage from
That's
A New Hope
crazy.
that weren't used.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't notice that?
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Most of them are old. It's old footage of people. in
Dude,
the
I
cockpit.
thought
Yeah,
that
you
dude's
actually-
mustache was period correct.
Yeah, well, that's the mustache thing too. Is Gareth Edwards was like, "Hey, for as many people as possible, grow out sideburns. We want this to look 70s."
Yeah.
which is fucking
Yeah.
cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, like a lot
That's
of
awesome.
the squad leaders were the actual like actors from the original movie. With
You think they got paid again?
No.
I'm like,
I,
They
I'm
got paid
sure-
for that footage.
I'm sure their family got paid again.
Yeah,
because
probably.
I'm sure that those guys are not around anymore.
And you could even tell because the way that they voice those lines are so old school.
Played
movie.
out.
but it
Oh,
works.
It's so
I didn't
like,
even know. I was like,
Red
oh, this
Squadron
is so-
Commander's hat over here. Like,
Yeah.
everybody has that weird way of acting. You know,
wish
back,
he was Gary
back in
Whitta,
the
though.
day.
Yeah, that would have been cool. God damn, that would have been cool.
That's a bummer that that scene got cut. I hope someday we can see deleted scenes of Gary flip and switch.
Yeah.
So like, Gary, don't do that.
with green in the back, and then of course our asshole audience will take all the green out and just put Tim's face floating around.
He'd,
Yeah.
he'd be so mad about something, Gary. Like up there in space, he'd be pissed off about something.
Yeah, but, they don't have Tam Tams. Admiral Radis orders the fighters down to the surface before they close the shield gate, and a few of them make it few before they close, and some of them just bounce off that fucking thing, and it's
Bounce off
so
really good.
sad.
It's really cool.
And then let's see. What does that mean? It means they're going to transmit the plans. Okay, so they go and what is it? I think I missed the spot here, but essentially they go and they find the plans, or they go to the vault and they're like, we got to transmit these things. We can't get the shield gate's closed, so instead of being able to take them off the planet, we're stuck here. We got to transmit these plans. What does that mean? What we got to get? This is where it's a little bit weird because you're like, okay. So we're stuck here because the shield gate's closed. But in order to transmit the plans, we have to close. We have to open the shield
Yeah.
gate. So if you open the shield gate, why don't we just get in a ship and fly through when it's opened?
I was wondering that too. There must be an explanation that I missed. That we missed.
I think they just wanted the 3 planes of action, and these people were committed. But you would think they could have just called back to Bodhi and be like, Bodhi, get the message out, and then bring the ship over here, and we'll get you the plans. We'll fly away for a while everyone else happens. Then once that shield gate's open, we'll
But-
get up and jump in
Barrett,
hyperspace.
keep an eye on the chat.
my thing is like they have that specific like SD card is the best word that I can come up with. Like maybe that's like an Empire like only kind of thing. Like that hardware is something that only like Empire technology can read. So maybe it was just a thing of like we need to have it like digitally transferred through our system so we can have our hardware computers and shit.
But see, that doesn't make sense though, because their original plan was to take it and leave, and it wasn't until
Yeah.
they closed that they're like, "Oh fuck, now we need to transfer."
I just think they
I
needed
think
an
they
excuse
used
to
Fat
trap these
32.
people on the planet.
I
Can't be
think
read by Mac.
the issue was there was like a full-on war happening downstairs. Like the odds of them being able to go down, escape, and then take a ship out, like
Without
are very
getting shot
slim.
down. Yeah,
like
that's a good
instead
point.
go up to the antenna, hope that the signal gets like they break down the shield and they can send out the signal, because like people are running down and out to fight at the beaches, not up, right?
Well, either way, they radio over to Bodhi and say, look, you got to get a message out, but in order to do that, we got to tether into the system, the network. So you got to figure out a way to get us tethered in there so we can send up that thing, which gives Bodhi something to do. K2SO spots a squad of stormtroopers, so he closes the door, locking Jin and Cassian into the vault, and then he tries to pull a Han Solo, which does not work at all. So he just picks them up and thrashes them. Similar to how my friend Todd used to do to my friend Clay, because Todd was like 200 pounds and Clay only weighed 130. So Todd used to pick him up by his backpack and then slam him down on the ground, and it was very violent, but we all laughed. He was fine. He didn't get hurt.
Cool,
He would just pick him up because he couldn't do anything and just put him down on the ground.
Got it.
It was fun.
I,
Sometimes he would slap the backpack too, and the weight would just pull him down.
God, I lost my train of thought because you started talking about Todd.
I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Sorry. Let's see. TIE fighters scramble and start taking out X-Wings in space as they attack. They start attack runs on the shield gate. Cassian and Jin search the building for the vault for project names, and Jin comes across one called Stardust, and she's like, that's where
Nailed
it
it.
is.
The
That's where it
TIE
is.
fighter designs of the ones that are closer to the beach, they only
They're like
have
flatter,
the,
right?
the top half
Yeah.
of the things coming out, and they designed that to make them look like the Apache helicopters from like war movies and
fucking
stuff.
awesome.
Really
Wars
quick,
as
while
well.
she's going through file names and stuff, there's one called hyperspace tracking.
Hyperspace tracking
Yeah.
and dark saber,
Dark Saber, which might be a reference to Mandalore, but I don't want to get too into it just because it's real nerd shit.
We
cool stuff though.
when Cassian tells Bodhi to figure out a way, like if I were Bodhi, I would have just panicked and died. Like I could not in any of like with that much pressure on me. When Tim asked me to make a thumbnail, I have 40,000 questions. Like where do the letters go? What image? I don't know what you want me to do, Tim. You're putting so much on me right now. Like when he just like figure it out, Bodhi, I would have been like, bro, I don't know, man. Like I don't fucking know.
What do you think the odds of you going like, if your way of figuring it out was you just look over and the camera racks over to the seat of the ship and you're like, I'm gonna take this thing out of here. I'm just gonna go. I figured it out. I'm gonna tell it myself. See you later.
I would have been asking stormtroopers for help.
That's so funny.
Hey man, can you help me for a second?
Hey, get over here.
Let's see. Outside, K2 is icing people left and right, but he gets overrun by stormtroopers, so he takes it upon himself to lock Jin and Cassian into the vault, and he tells them they're gonna have to climb. He manages tell them to climb.
voice box is changing
It starts
and
changing. It's really, really sad.
modulating, yeah.
They have to climb up the thing. There's a dish at the top of the tower they can get to. If they can get there, they can transmit the plans out there. But before right after he tells them that, he takes one to the heart and dies. And it's actually pretty sad. We see like the light go out in his eyes. And you're like, God damn, man.
He takes out a lot of people.
fucks a lot of people.
I love that. Yeah.
Jin blows the glass out of the server, and she and Cassian jump over onto the rack and start climbing it up. I just think the visuals here are cool. Outside shit.
This is such a weird thing. It's not a complaint at all. It's just something that I noticed. Is this the first time we've seen glass break in Star Wars?
Yeah.
Because something about it felt weird, where it's just like I don't know. Like
No, we
of course
saw
there's
glass break at Revenge of the Sith, right?
The
big ass
window
windshield
with
thing.
Sidious and
Yeah, you're right.
But you would
you are right.
You would
Yeah.
think to yourself, why, if you have shield generators, would you need glass?
There was just
anymore?
something about it that felt out of universe, but
Yeah.
it didn't take me out of it. I was just
Shield
like,
generator.
and then she got
Failed.
shot and she did a fucking Neo. Like
But if a shield generator fail, yeah, I guess that's true.
Then, you know.
But like a shield generator failing, I would rather take that over a piece of glass that you could just throw something through. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, sure.
I'm like, this is a super ultra secret vault.
I'm in.
Either
And,
way.
another thing that Gareth Edwards did is the design of the way that tower works, where you put your two hands in and kind of like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the server rack, which is cool because you know what it looked like? It looked like an old school server rack for tape decks.
Yeah.
For old networks where they have to go up, get it, and then
I
plug it
think
into
that's
the thing.
exactly what it was meant to be.
It was a
Yeah.
reference
Yeah.
between that and to George Lucas's first movie, the
THX.
whatever. Like, there's a scene where they have something very similar to
Oh,
that.
cool.
It looks really cool to control.
Yeah.
It does look fun, but
Yeah,
it
once
looks
you
like
felt
also
it.
I'd be really bad at it at first,
Yeah.
and then never get good at it.
It's like when they introduced the right stick in like first-person shooters, and people
Yeah.
are like, well, I don't know how to control this.
Like, well, I'm used to just being on the thumb. Outside shit is not looking so hot. Bodhi has to make the connection, but someone needs to throw them. He's like, I made the connection, but someone has to throw the master switch. Jin successfully pulls a hard drive out of its little spot where it's stuck, and then she sticks it on her belt, which I thought was cool. She
Yeah,
just
that's
clips it on like a
rad.
utility belt. But as she does so, Krennic and his goons attack them. Cassian takes a couple out, but Krennic puts him right in his shoulder, and Cassian presumably falls to his death. Jin sees it and goes, fuck it, I gotta head up to the dish. Outside, Chirrut takes it upon himself to throw the switch as everyone's pinned down. What's up?
We see him not fall to his death, though, right? He lands on a platform,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things. It's
Well,
like, oh,
But it
okay.
also comedically lasts quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because you hear like doom, ding. it's so
But like they thought, should we put a cat screeching in this? But no, we'll take that.
and
We'll take that.
like I can imagine this lasting for like a minute in a YouTube like funny video where you just keep on hearing sound effects and
That's
stuff.
really
But is this where Bodhi has he died yet? Either way, I think his
It's
Bodhi
close,
dies
we're
in
close.
about a second.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of his acting leading up to this is phenomenal. His desperation and his line delivery, I think, is just so well done.
Oh, man, when he's talking to Sauce people, like you feel how afraid he is.
Yeah.
You know?
I think all of the deaths are
So
perfectly
poignantly
acted
done.
stuff. It is very unfortunate that there's a master switch. And it's like, what? Like, the Bodhi having to get the cable and stuff, I'm like, I could buy that for what they're doing with the radio. They're being
Yeah.
a master switch.
Where's the master switch? It's inside of the
It's over on a different platform.
Tim,
Yeah.
a lot of things have master switch. We have a master switch right now. You flip
I
it.
understand,
90% of the
but
studio
it's-
turns off.
We have a master stomping point too. You want to switch? You want to hit that?
We
and see
fixed
what
that.
happens?
That has been resolved.
This is one of the few parts of the movie that I was like, all right, we're just needlessly putting complications in front of the actors to give some of the side characters something to do. They needed to have a cool scene with Chirrut, and to be fair, this is an awesome scene, but I really wish that Bodhi like we have a scene where Bodhi has to run the line out and all that stuff's happening. He's taking fire. He's like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it, and all that stuff. It's just one too many things where I'm like, we don't
I love all this.
Personally,
I love
I
how many
love-
things there are. I just don't love the things.
Yeah. It's they're endless MacGuffins. They're endless just complications for the sake of complications, and it's forgivable because the next scene we get is where Chirrut is everyone's pinned down, and he goes and he starts uttering the mantra, "I am one with the
Before
force.
that,
the
though,
force is with me."
the one guy, like, he's like, fuck it, I'm going. And then
he
gets
just
shot
shot.
immediately.
Shot.
Such a great build up to him doing this.
And he just in like one of the greatest moments of this whole movie, he just walks out as he believes that I'm one with the force, and for whatever reason, they just can't hit him. He's not like serpentining at all. He's just walking in a straight line toward the thing, and the stormtroopers are trying to shoot at him, and it's just not working for some reason.
So
and it's
cool.
so
Why
cool
can't we hit him? I'm
because
just
they
real bad at shooting.
because if
All of us are.
in the hands of a different director, someone would have shouted, his metachlorian count's too high, or some shit like that, you know, but it doesn't matter. It's this mythical thing. It's mysterious. We don't know. He's in touch with this beautiful power that gets him to the switch. Does it save him forever? No. He has to, and then I love that shot where he gets to it and then has to still blindly look for the switch itself. So like the force got him there, but he still has to like go that last little bit himself. It's
beautiful,
Pushes the
man.
switch. Transmission goes through. Hey, we're tethered up. It's great. And then he just takes one.
I wonder
That's it.
how the scene would have
So
played out
beautiful.
had he not suggested himself be blind. You know,
I don't know,
Like,
but
would
it
he
was-
I
just
mean, I would have
walked
been.
out?
Great
I,
idea.
no, I would. I think there would have been dodging involved, but like, I'm glad that he suggested that he was blind because I felt like that added so much to this character.
Yeah.
And like, it made this scene like I think this whole sequence where we start seeing these deaths is beautiful. Like, what a good job giving each character a little moment and then saying goodbye.
Yeah.
You know.
I apologize. I said he took one to the chest. He does not actually. Right when he flips the switch, someone blows up the junction box, and he gets the concussion, knocks him down. Bodhi, the transition's made, and this is where Bodhi's ship. He looks over. He's like, "That was awesome for Galen." Looks over, and the grenade comes in, and it's great because you guys are right. Like they're not overstated deaths. We have a moment in like Saving Private Ryan where Barry Pepper is just fucking icing people from the bell tower as a sniper,
Saying
and then
prayers.
he's saying the prayers and he's icing people, and he looks over and he sees the tank
aiming at
Slowly
him,
aiming
and
at
he's
him,
just like,
and he
that's
just
it.
knows.
Yeah.
And he tries to scream to the guy,
Parker, get out!
get out, and
Oh,
boom.
God.
That's it.
What
We
a
don't see his
movie.
character ever
What a
again.
moment.
And that's this moment for me where he just sees it, and then he just cuts to the outside, and the ship blows up.
Yeah.
Bodhi's gone. We don't need to see him like, oh, I'm dead. We know he's dead.
Yeah.
And
Sad.
I love that they have Baz to be this character that now has to live with Chirrut being gone, and just the way that he deals with it, I think is just so awesome because
Beautiful.
I love that with each of these characters dying, it wasn't just kind of the same thing over and over and over. Where they completed their thing and now they're dead. It's like they did that for these two, but then you get like K2SO is like just taking motherfuckers out, right?
Yeah.
Then you see Chirrut do the thing and then die. Then you see Bodhi,
Bodhi, yeah.
do the
Rhythm
thing
Man.
and then
He
die.
sends out the message.
And then it gets to Baze, and he doesn't need to do
Yeah.
what he does.
No.
And it's awesome.
His is
But,
just
but
purely revenge.
I will say, all three of them die from explosions. 3 explosion deaths in a row.
There's a lot of explosions, though.
but yeah, I mean, that's,
but
they
Baz
die from
also gets taken down by
grenades
shots.
and like yeah.
I will also say that just a shout out to the name Bodhi, which is the short for the Bodhisattva, which we know from. That's right, Tim. Point Break.
There you go.
That was Patrick Swayze's
There
name.
you
Wow,
go.
And if
great.
I'm not mistaken, can you look up what the etymology of that word, Barrett? Bodhi.
From Bodacious.
Is that no? I don't think it is. Look up Bodhisattva. I think I'm saying it right.
Bodhisattva.
Did you
And-
dream this?
Because look up, just type in Bodhi, Patrick Swayze, Point Break, meaning question mark. Because I
off.
think that name means like
Google
the
images.
person who is the prophet or the foreseer of the future, or the one that brings the whatever. There's a name to it.
Gia has
There's
a
reason
friend,
why it means
Pooja, whose son's middle name is Bodhi. So that maybe.
Buddhist
Yeah,
religion.
Google that word right there. The Bodhisattva.
It says it right here.
Wait,
Bodhisattva is a term in the Buddhist religion, meaning an enlightened being who, out of compassion, forgoes nirvana in order to save others.
So there it
Whoa,
is.
that's a good call, Nick.
Yeah, so interesting.
I feel like that name would have fit more of what's his face's character.
Kazian?
Taz,
Cheer it.
Cheer it. There you go.
K2SO.
Well, either way, I like that he has to, in order to, in not taking a safer route,
Yeah.
he goes and he does. Also, I like to believe that they had no idea what that meant, and he just Gary chose to name that character after Patrick Swayze in Point Break. Because that's even more meaningful to me, if that's the case. We'll ask Gary next time he's in. I think I had Bodhi's death scene a little too early here. Either way, Baze rushes out to help his friend, but it's too late. Chirrut tells him to look for the Force, and Baze will always find him. And then he dies. That's a really great moment. And then Baze picks up the mantra and he goes, the Force is with me. I'm one with the Force.
Hell yes.
And like this is the one scene where we get like one of these characters actually dying, and like, but it is motivation for the other dude to get up and just start cleaning house with that goddamn cool gun he has.
And by the way, the people here he's killing is the Death Troopers.
Yeah.
Because they have landed now. Because Krennic had ordered them in, and he just starts killing all these guys, and they're like, it's a cool little battle. Of course,
I also
Bodhi,
love the first time in the movies we see like a machine gun of lasers.
Yeah.
not only a machine gun of lasers, but he's got like the trash can on his back that's got, you assume, all the ammunition in it, or
It's
whatever the
powering,
energy
yeah,
is.
batteries.
Vulcan Ravens.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Bodhi gets the message through. If Admiral Radis can get the shield down, they can get the plans through. Radis looks over and notices that a Death Star has been disabled. It's lost power, and he gets a great idea. Call in the Hammerhead. Sorry, what did I say?
Yeah,
Not Death
Death
Star.
Star, yeah.
Star Destroyer is disabled. He calls in the Hammerhead Corvette.
The coolest
Daddy
name
has
ever.
a plan.
What a cool
Fucking coolest
name.
thing, but also it's not just that he noticed. It's like that was the plan. They sent the round of the Y wings in
Y-wing, yeah.
to do all the electromagnetic
Oh,
shit
I didn't
to like
notice
take
that.
it out.
Yeah. Smart.
So then it was dead, and then they did the Hammerhead Corvette. You're like, what is happening? And then it's the coolest thing.
But it's
Which-
also
great choreography.
It's also one of those things animation wise where when we see the X-wing hit that shield, that sort of makes us think, oh, I didn't think physics worked that way in this
Yeah.
universe. And then you see a Hammerhead Corvette that when I guess the way it's built, the structure of it or whatever, if I see it hitting a Death Star, I expect it to crumble. But for whatever reason, the structural integrity of it's so strong that it's able to push. I think that's
I
really
love
cool.
that we get two, like it hits it and it doesn't do
then it
much,
starts
and then
boosting.
it boosts,
Yeah.
and
And it's
you
that
can see
slow
that, yeah,
progression to hit into the other one, and I love the way that it goes.
yeah. Oh,
Scrapes
it
the
just
top
you can
over.
like
God.
feel it cutting into that,
Yeah.
like those two ships
Yeah.
colliding.
I
It
think
was
it's-
such a fuck yeah moment. In
Yeah.
the theaters.
But also like so well done too, because it's slow. It's not like it's a boom, boom, everything has to go. It's like, oh, is this gonna work? Oh, it worked. Oh shit, that's insane. And then as it bangs into the other one, and they start going into the shield, and it's the sheer volume of it takes the shield out.
I want to name my
Very, very
Honda
cool.
Civic the Hammerhead Corvette.
Hell yeah.
It's a cool name,
That's
dude.
do it,
It's one of the
dude.
coolest names in the Star
Do
Wars
it.
universe.
Hammerhead Civic.
I drive a Honda like my father before.
I drive a Honda like my father before me. Let's see. Back down on the surface, Baze this goes out with a bang. Gets grenaded, which is sad, but he takes out all the Death Troopers with him. As Jin finishes climbing up, she has to do a little juke move where the thing's like.
I hate that. That like
flies
such a
So
why?
stupid.
Why? This is one of my biggest problems of like what a like tropey feeling like, oh hey, this is like a 70s movie. And it's like, no, even then they didn't do these stupid things of like, oh, I got a time right.
Yeah, you just feel like at some point there's a safety coordinator for the Empire that was high as fuck when all this shit. He's like, that's someone can make it through. It's 3 seconds. It's fine.
OSHA's like, bro, you can't have that.
It's like, is that ADA compliant? Who gives a shit?
Like Bowser designed this part of the ship.
Yeah.
It's such a dumb video game thing.
I feel like this is a moment that like I wish it was cut. I wish that
it's very groany.
yeah.
Once
Matt
outside,
Groening.
she plugs the hard drive in, but before the transmission can be sent, one more obstacle. She has to first align the disc, so she climbs out onto the world's smallest platform to do just that, and you think it's going to be a problem, but no, she just does it pretty easily. And as she does, of course, the TIE fighter attacks the platform, and she almost gets knocked off, but she doesn't. Up in space, Radius uses, this is where Radis uses the hammerhead, pushes it in, whatever. Jin climbs back up, and she's confronted with Krennic, who holds her at gunpoint. The shield is still up. He says, you'll never get the plans through, and all I've lost is time. And then Cassian says, time, and also I'm going to shoot you in the back. And Cassian's there, and he shoots him.
Yeah.
But does he kill him?
You've
I don't
also
really know.
lost your heart
No,
rate.
yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
No, he doesn't kill him. Yeah, which I'm super glad because I love him looking up and seeing the Death Star
scene.
and it being like, hey, the weapon
The
made
thing
of
you
your own
created.
destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's my favorite shot in the movie.
Cool for a visual moment. Dumb for the characters. And this is the only time these characters make a choice where I'm like, what are you in a fucking James Bond movie? Kill him. Like, you shot him in the shoulder, walk over, and like, this is a guy that you can't. What if he got out? What if he got away?
Well, I think
He
that
knows the plans are out. You know what I mean? I don't know.
he doesn't know where the flaw is.
Shoot him in the back. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Why would you leave him alive? He just goes, no, just leave him. Why?
Well, Jin did tell. I mean,
Well, don't they see the Death Star at this point? Or no,
Yeah,
it's-
but that's
again, he's
but
still
like
knocked.
Granted, they might look out and
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, this thing's gonna kill us," but that's a pretty big leap. What if it didn't? Then this guy's alive. This guy's a massive like leader of this your enemy. You fucking kill him.
I just feel like they're
I just
kind of
hate when they do that in
Yeah,
movies.
I agree, but I do think that like in the heat of the moment, they are more worried about making sure the message transmits out and that everything that they're doing is worth something. Because it doesn't matter if he survives as much as like the rebellion needs to have these plans.
Jin rushes over and sends the transmission as high above them. The Star Destroyer crashes into the shield gate, taking it down just in the nick of time. Admiral Radis receives the transmission, and a second later, they send something big coming out of hyperspace on the other side of the planet. It's the Death Star. Tarkin orders them to fire on Scarif. The blast is generated and hits nearby. Did they miss the city? Is that what happened by accident? I don't know.
I don't. That was a weird thing, but I think it was so that like the laser beam that came down blows up the top of the tower, which is where the dude's at. Where
Oh, so it's like
yeah.
an angled thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like I don't think they did that on purpose. But it also doesn't matter.
I feel
'Cause,
like-
the explosion blast
It's
is
just
big
some
enough
movie
that-
shit.
yeah.
I think it's movie shit, plot
Yeah.
armor. Let's give them enough time to say goodbye to
Sure.
these characters
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
we die.
So the blast hits and a nuclear wave starts raging toward the Citadel Tower. Radis immediately orders the fleet to jump to hyperspace, and most do except for one poor fucking ship that just jumps right into Vader's Star Destroyer as it comes out of hyperspace. What a great
visual.
What a great visual. Down on the surface. So we see Vader. We get another scene with him where he orders immediately the men to prepare a boarding party. He's like, we got to get on top of that ship, get those plans. Down on the surface, Jin and Cassian share one final moment. This is where he looks over and says, your father would be proud of you. And they hug. And they just hug as
Very
the
human.
power engulfs them. That's it.
So I love the look of the blast coming to them, the music, like everything about the colors and stuff and how they are. Everything's so great. I don't love the look of when it overcomes them.
the final shot.
Yeah, it's
because you
like
see like
bad.
Diego Luna's eye open. It's just a weird look.
It looks weird, and I feel like I don't know what they could have done to make it not look weird because they made the choice to make it so bright
I think
and like that we could see everything. I feel like they would have had to.
It would have been
hide
cool if
things.
it had the brightness had silhouetted them out, so you don't see any of that. But
I think the way to fix it, we had like an opposite problem for the last episode or whatever for Force Awakens, where the last shot of that movie is like a weird kind of like far away shot. I think something like that actually would have worked here because the not actually seeing them being engulfed, but maybe like a far away shot of seeing like where they were would have worked because it's the emotion of like letting go and they're not here anymore. I think that would have been a way better call than whatever the fuck this shot was.
Up in space, of course, one of the Alliance ships has received the plans, and they are transferring it over to another hard drive. Once complete, the crew member goes, "Cool, let's get the fuck out of here." But guess what? The door is stuck, and there's a little crack open. He's like, "We gotta get this door open," and then, and we get it. Silence for a second. All the guys look back because they feel something, and you hear it, and this is the coolest scene ever put on film.
That's just a hard fact.
It doesn't need to be in this movie.
I'm so
but
happy
I'm
that
so
it was.
glad that it was.
So happy.
It's one of those things that you can't even believe that they put it in a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's
Where
so true.
it's such a fan fiction sort of thing that
This is a video
actually
game
seeing
scene,
it on
yeah.
screen has blown my mind and will blow my mind every time I watch this movie. I think it's phenomenal.
This works to me as an epilogue to Rogue One. It works as a prologue to A New Hope. It's such a unique thing that I can't remember another movie that has something that this movie totally could have. The blast comes out
In there.
credits, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I would have been satisfied with that. This bit to me, I feel like is so perfect and so unique to what this type of prequel allows. And the coolest fucking thing that I had to confirm because I
could have been
kind of
after
heard
credits
it,
though.
but I
No,
wanted
I
to,
loved it
to
this
look.
way.
That would have been cool too.
Yeah.
That I wanted to confirm is the music that's playing. It's just tones that play, and they're real slow. It's the Imperial March,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
real slow.
Really
So
slow.
cool.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, this. It's so hard not to immediately start A New Hope, just because it transitions so smoothly. And like, you're right. I don't know that I've seen another movie that sets things up so perfectly and like gives us a view that we've never seen before and just gets us all hyped.
Really quick, another quick thing. Sam Witwer is the guy who yells "Open fire." If you don't know, Sam Witwer was
Oh, that's
the
cool.
one who
Force
played
Starkiller.
Force Unleashed and Starkiller. He's the one who yells "Open fire" in that scene. It's really cool because I like
that's
those
really cool.
games, and I think that's a cool callback to like bring him back just for that little
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, that is great.
But like, let's for 1 second talk about the choreography in here, okay? Because the open fire. He starts immediately
Slow
deflecting,
walking.
just deflecting and slow walking. Okay,
But again,
grabs one guy.
you look at the guys. It's like, all right, you 4 shoot at his head, you 4 shoot his legs.
Doesn't matter.
right?
No,
You know what I
but
mean?
it
doesn't matter
we
because
get that
at-
point though.
Yeah.
we get the point where they're all shooting and he just goes like this and they all lose their guns.
No, there's a weird thing he does, and I couldn't figure out what he does. But so the first guy he pulls toward him, sticks to the ceiling, and as he passes
Walks
the guy,
by.
cuts
Slashes
him in half.
back. So
Okay.
cool.
At that point, I would have been like this: blaster to my own temple. I don't want this.
Yeah,
I don't want this,
fuck
right?
this.
Then the other guys are shooting at him, and he stops one of them with his hand, but I think he pushes the bolt back into the guy, and then pulls all their guns toward him. Hacks them all. The last guy finally goes, "Fuck it! Hey, get over here and take this." And as he hands the other person, you see the blade go through
Camera
his
cut.
chest.
Oh my
Through
God.
the door.
So good.
It is terrifying. And then the door opens, by the way, because
which is-
I think he might is either forced
And then
open
there's
or
more.
whatever.
I love that it just keeps. It's not just that hallway.
Yeah.
He kept fighting.
Oh, he kept
through.
fucking everyone, and then they run it finally over to the last door, give it to the guy. Door closes, and the shitty goes, "Launch, motherfucker! Let's go! Let's fucking run! Get out! Run! Like,
And
launches
I
it. You-
love
you
the
see-
cut of the
terrified.
dude flipping the switch, cutting to the outside, and it's seeing like releasing
Yeah.
the ship and it dropping, and like, okay, we're safe.
But
Yeah,
even then, it's like
for a
maybe
second.
you're not safe.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. Like,
Well, no, because they're not safe. Because immediately the next line we get after that, so we see Vader as the ship's moving out. We see him like standing there, like in the
imagine him
launch.
grab the ship or some shit.
Like I thought he was gonna do that, but we see him. That's a great visual too, where his cape's just like kind of a little flowing, but not really. But then but you have to imagine there's a force field. But he's watching it as it's just going out in space, and he's like, "Fuck!" And then on the ship, the guy immediately goes, "Prepare the escape pods." Because we're gonna get boarded. Like we got to get the fuck out of here. Runs it over to the command area, opens it up, and who do we see? Princess Leia there. She's like, "Man, the plans are here. What are they?" And as the camera turns and we see her terrible face, just terrible face animation.
It's not that
so
bad.
It's pretty
It's
bad.
bad.
It's way
Bad.
worse than Tarkin.
Way
And it's
worse.
so sad because what she says next is so good, but I
Such a
just
good
can't
line.
get past it. He goes, "What is this?" And she goes, "Hope."
Oh, it's so beautiful.
And then it ends.
Really quick, the one thing that I want to ask really quick is this movie closes one storytelling gap with the whole like giving a reason why the Death Star has this vulnerability, but doesn't it kind of? It's not an important one, but I've always thought it was weird that in A New Hope we get the storytelling beat, or Darth Vader's like, we detected that a transmission was sent to this ship specifically. That's why we know you guys have something. But that's not actually how it happened.
Well, the
They-
ship was docked inside the ship they got the transmission.
Yeah, but I feel it's less of
Semantics.
that, but it's more of like he literally saw the ship. So I don't know. It's just like a weird little thing. It's not important, but
When
I've
you
always
jump to
thought that was
hyperspace, there's
interesting.
no rules. You know what I mean?
That's true. I mean, that's a good point though, because he was like Leia played coy with him.
Yeah.
And he's like, and you got the sense that he's like, I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty sure she's lying to me.
Yeah.
But you're right. In depth, like
In,
without
like,
a
the
shadow
whole
of a doubt,
story-
he knows the plans are on there.
Yeah,
Because
and
he
the
just
whole
killed 50
story
people
of-
getting to that fucking ship.
And I know that, like, because it's weird of, like, that movie came out in 77, we're doing this now, but in the whole story of things, he could have been like, I fucking saw you guys fly away, you
I
dumb
was
pieces
just
of shit.
there. I was
Yeah.
just there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of
they're all
it.
playing
But while they're
plot
writing,
holes
but
game.
while they're thinking up these story beats and like these plot holes and how they like fit certain puzzle pieces in, at a point do you just say, yeah, but this scene is way too fucking cool.
You have to.
have it in there.
Right?
You know?
You have to imagine.
The Leia thing to me is I agree that it lasts like too long. I don't think she looks that bad when you just first see her, but I do think it should have cut quicker. But to me, it's worth it. Like to me, seeing her is worth it. Where
Absolutely.
seeing her just from behind, I think would have been weird.
Yeah.
I don't think would have played because we needed to hear her.
I agree with you, and I think we needed to see a little bit of her face in order to really feel the impact of it. But I think we should have seen a little. I think she should have turned. They should have not.
Yes.
cut
I would've
been in.
to the
I
other
would've
side
been
of
in.
her. If she could have just turned and said
Just
"Hope,"
enough.
just enough that we get that. Okay, we see a little bit of her skin. We know it's supposed to be Leia. But when they turn to her completely and we stay on that shot, it's just not done well enough.
It's so
it takes you
vulnerable.
immediately out of it.
100%.
And I don't. It's so sad because everything for that last 5 minutes of the movie is so intense. We get there and like it's just a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah,
But how good
it
is the
still gets me
message?
so fucking.
Yeah.
hyped,
That's
man.
great.
Like,
But-
like having her is such a hype, cool moment. Just I
Yeah.
wish the animation was better or done differently, specifically done differently.
Yep.
All right, let's do a little bit of
7 syllables in the middle.
There we go.
We need 5 for the first and last line. If you're not poetic, no need to fret it. Haikus don't need to rhyme. Haiku in review. I like haiku in review. Come on with me. I like you. What?
I don't know what.
Come home with me.
You can go to patreon.com/kindoffunny to write your reviews in haiku form, just like Sneecher did. Sneecher, what a fun day.
Sneecher. He was in Rebels, I believe. He was one of the aliens.
He's one of the droid cameos that they made. Jin gave Rebels hope. Rebels gave Leia the plans. Darth gave Rebels death. I like
Jin
it.
gave
it's
Rebels
good.
hope. Rebels gave Leia the plans. Okay, that's cool.
That's cool. I like it.
Gage says, Cassian, don't give a fuck. DGAF is what he said. Although I guess don't give a fuck is still
Cassian.
bully okay.
No,
Yeah.
no. But it's Cassian DeGaff.
Got it.
Like that's what it is.
There we go. There we go. Cassian DeGaff. Vader is fucking gnarly. Everybody dies.
Yeah.
Steven says, Krennic versus Tarkin. Jeddah City had to fall. Vader in the hall. I feel like that first line, you just kind of like, I fucking need more syllables, but I appreciate it. And then Tensa goes, really like the flick. Darth Vader was cool as fuck. Bravo, Witta, G.
Oh, Witta, comma G. I
Witta,
see.
comma G. That's how it goes. Now it's time for Ragu Bagu, Andy.
Rad guys talk bad guys. Dun 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 now.
Ragu.
Dun 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 now.
Bagu.
Welcome to this podcast within a podcast where we rank all the villains in the Star Wars universe. I'm joined by all of my co-hosts, Tim, Nick, Kevin.
Why'd you
Barrett.
hesitate?
Because I was gonna say Greg.
Oh.
I'm so used to saying Greg and all that shit.
Thank God he's not here. Though.
All right. Starting from the top to the bottom, we got Boba Fett and Palpatine, Boba Tea. Vader's choking hand, Kylo in First Order from Force Awakens, Tark Vader from A New Hope, Maui and Palpatine, Maul and Palpatine from goddamn that
Menace.
one, Sidious Vaxxer from Revenge of the Sith, and number 2, that was Attack of the Clones. Sorry, Dooku, Jango, Annie, CG, Lucas. Where do we put
Krennic?
Number 3.
I feel like he was a really good villain.
Yeah, me too.
And I think that they spent a decent amount of time building him out too, where it's like we got a lot more Krennic than I think we do most villains in this world.
I do agree with Barrett that I believe he is number 3, underneath Vader's choking hand and above Kylo Ren in the First Order.
I agree.
Mostly because I think he's just a lot better of an act. I mean, it's not an acting thing. I think it's just more of how the character is portrayed, where
And what he's given to do with
so
the
much
script
of
and stuff.
Weasley guy in First Order. Like
Yeah.
that's part of the character. I just don't like the way that's
So our number
portrayed.
one right now is Return of the
Boba
Jedi.
Fett and
Episode
Palpatine.
6. Yeah.
You know what? I'd say number 2. I think that the Krennic is fleshed out enough that in the New Hope Vader, which is number 2, of course I love him, but I
No,
don't like how he
it's
ends.
Empire.
Oh, it's Empire.
Yeah, that's Empire is
Yeah.
number 2. That's why I would put it at 3. 'cause
Okay,
I think,
okay, cool,
I
you're
think
right.
Vader and Empire is you can't top that.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is why
Number
I think.
3.
Yeah.
All right, we're putting Krennic at number 3 for his performance in Rogue One. Fantastic job, Mendelsohn.
This list fucking sucks. It's our fault.
yeah.
I'm gonna blame Andy on this one. No offense, but
Now it's time
we
to
can
rank
clean this up at any point.
the Star Wars universe. Currently, the rankings are number 1, The Empire Strikes Back. Number 2, A New Hope. Number 3, The Force Awakens. Number 4, Return of the Jedi. Number 5, Revenge of the Sith. Number 6, The Phantom Menace. Number 7, Attack of the Clones. I'm going to start by saying I think that this is number 4. Below Force Awakens, above Return of the Jedi. Going into this, I would have thought I'd put it above Force Awakens, but I feel like Force Awakens has less downtime and like questions of things that I'm wanting more from it. Whereas this, I really, really, really loved the end and I was interested by the beginning. But like I said earlier, I feel like the characters, the moments that we get just aren't earned with the characters. They feel amazing when they happen, but they did not get there in a way that satisfied me.
I feel like this one should be number 3. I think that like while the middle is slow, I think that builds so that when we have those, I think that they are earned.
It's not that it's slow, because I feel
Yeah.
like that's what like an easy criticism of this is. It's not that it's slow. It's that I just don't think the choices they made were the right choices. I'd actually rather it be slower and get more character dynamics between each of the team members.
I think that they focused on Jin's character, like with her dad, to show her transition from like not caring about the rebellion to giving her life
Having
for
something
it.
to fight for.
They did that great with her.
Exactly.
But what
And- but,
about
like-
Bodhi? What about
But Bodhi,
Baz?
like I think that they gave us enough for their motivation to make sense. Where it was the what's his name? Chirrut. Like he wanted to help and believe in the Force, and like he got his conclusion. His bro like wanted to get revenge because they killed him, you know. And Bodhi like wanted to fight. Like he left the Empire because what he thought they were doing was wrong, and he gave his life to that specifically.
I just think that the mind wiping, the CG alien thing, like put the pilot storyline on such the wrong track that I think it really is disruptive to the overall building of the team and the team's dynamic of me giving a crap about them together and believing that they'd work together in ways that give us the amazing ends that they get.
I would put this right below Return of the Jedi. I think this movie's great, but I think that it still, to me, feels like a fun side story that you wouldn't get if you didn't have Return of the Jedi. And I like it, but I still my love for all Star Wars still goes back to the original trilogy, and I think the way that Return of the Jedi rounds it out is so much cooler than anything that happens in this movie. Granted, this is a good movie, but I just don't think you get this movie without Return of the Jedi, and I don't think the impact of it happens unless you understand what the ramifications are. So as a standalone movie, it's just like if this were the only Star Wars movie ever made, it'd be cool, but man, it's not nearly as cool as if, now that we know that it's way cooler. It's made way cooler by the fact that the original trilogy exists.
But I mean, it does, though. I feel like that's the thing, is especially as we're ranking these, it is ranking them one after the other with the ones that come before it existing
true.
without future spoilers.
I just feel like there's a lot of great stuff in this. This to me is more of, and this is going to sound weird, but to me this is more of like, it's less of an action movie and more of a drama. And I like a lot of the character stuff, but I just don't think, I just think nothing will ever top the arc that Luke goes through and those end moments in the throne room. And I think that they're just so powerful and so beautiful and so well done that I would rather go back and watch that movie right now than Rogue One.
I think the things that I dislike about Return of the Jedi, I far dislike them more than the things I dislike about Rogue One. And that's kind of all it comes down to for me, where I think they both end so strongly. I think Rogue One ends a little bit better, but again, chicken and egg thing, right? You can't have one without the other. But I think the things that Rogue One did worse aren't as egregious to me as what Return of the Jedi was. Just a lot of the stuff on Endor just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of the little silly antics we had there.
Sure.
I would agree with Tim. I would put it at number 4 above Return of the Jedi.
Barrett.
I didn't think it was going to start until next episode, but this is the episode where I start to heavily disagree with all of you on all of these movies. I think this is a very, very, very okay movie. We jokingly compared this to Halo Reach last week, but I've actually been thinking about that comparison a lot the last couple of weeks. Halo Reach, if you don't know, is the prequel to the very first Halo game, and it serves to not get super into spoilers because I don't know if there's going to be people who are playing it for the first time on PC. I know it's been out for 7-8 years or whatever. It serves kind of the same purpose in the Halo lore that this movie does for Star Wars. Halo Reach is my favorite Halo story, and on paper, Rogue One should be my favorite Star Wars movie. I think the reason why Halo Reach works for me and the reason Rogue One doesn't is because we get more time spent with the characters before they go through their hardships. We see them get built up as this team, and we care for them fighting together, fighting this war. And so when they split apart and things start happening to them and we have to let go of them as characters, you actually feel that more on a personal basis. Whereas Rogue One, I completely agree with you. I think I like the premise of the story. I think it's really cool. I think it would have been served way better as a mini series. We're just doing one season of this 7-8 episode where we get to spend time with these characters. So when you have to let them go, it's actually emotionally not satisfying as poignant, yeah. And the problem is, like, yes, there are important moments that I think work for the characters. I just don't think that they're earned, especially Jyn Erso. Like, I understand the conversation that she has with Cassian, but her turn from, like, being pissed at Cassian, and I get his point of, like, I'd never really get to make that choice. I don't have the opportunity to make those choices. But she goes from, like, being pissed at the rebels and Cassian, and then 2 minutes later is trying to, like, do this whole speech to them because she believes in her dad. But the problem I have with that scene is not the complete 180 she has as a character, because I get what they're going with, like, of her doing this for her dad. I was just never sold on her relationship with her dad. And I think if we got more time spent with that, because we know at the beginning of the movie that they set up the dad is kind of a good guy. He left the Empire and all this stuff. And then we get a throwaway line where she's like, oh, I just rather pretend he's dead and whatnot to not think about it. And so when she gets really emotional when he reveals he's a good guy, like, I just never feel that because...
Do we know he's a good guy in the beginning?
We do. I mean, we get a sense of it.
I think
right?
that first scene,
he's gone to hide. He's not. He doesn't want to work for the Empire anymore.
But I know. But she still has a stormtrooper toy. It's like I feel like there's still an Empire.
Well, I think
family.
that's her toy. You know, like
we saw that toy again when she has the flashback on Coruscant, I think.
Yeah,
right?
like you when you leave someplace, you take your toys to feel that comfort. It doesn't matter.
Also, how weird is it they make stuffed stormtrooper toys?
It is really weird. I liked it though. I was never really sold on these characters. Like when we all leave them in the third act, right? From top to bottom, the top three deaths I care about the most is K2SO, and the sassy robot friend should not be the death that I care about the most. And then it's Krennic, specifically for that shot where he's looking down at this thing he's helped made for the last 2 decades, look back down on him, and it's about to destroy him. That's a beautiful storytelling shot right there. And then 3 is the second Jedha Guardian, because he witnessed his best friend die and he's carrying that weight. Everybody else I did, like, when they come together as a group and when they go out on their separate objectives, I don't feel the need to see them come back together. Like, I don't feel like on the edge of my seat, like, oh my God, are they going to all see each other again as friends? Because I don't feel like they've hung out for half a day. I don't give a fuck. And so that's why.
What Jedha Guardian?
The second one.
Baz.
Yeah, and that's the other problem. I forget the
excuse
fucking
me.
names of these characters half the time.
There's a lot of characters in this.
Yeah, and then I think this movie just has the problem, like the same problem as Revenge of the Sith, honestly, where it has a great, cool third act, but it's not earned with the first 2 acts that set up what it is. Like, this is definitely, to give good thoughts, I think this is definitely the prettiest Star Wars movie. Like, I really like the visuals. I think they were able to. I think it was impressive how much they are able to pull off the original trilogy vibe, modernize it, but not modernize it so much that it felt out of place. But yeah, I think there's a lot of cool things that happen in the third act, but I don't think they're really earned. A lot of the deaths fall flat for me. And then the question that I've constantly asked myself since, like, the second time I saw this movie was, if you were the executive producer on this movie and you were, like, confident in the story that you were telling and confident in, like, where we're letting these characters go, would you have added the Vader scene? Because personally, me, I would not have. If we felt like this story is supposed to be about these people, and if we felt like there was a kind of a good ending that we leave them off, we should have ended there. I think the fact that Vader was added feels weird and out of place. It's an awesome scene, and I love it, and I do agree. It's like one of the coolest Star Wars scenes ever put on screen, but I think it really doesn't, like, it fits kind of the tone of the movie, but it doesn't fit, like, what the story is supposed to be about. And then the Leia thing, I think, like, kind of agreeing with what Kevin says, like, how do you not get hyped to watch A New Hope again? I think that's great. I think it serves A New Hope. I don't think it serves this movie whatsoever.
Well, I think that they do a good job of treating it like an epilogue or even a post-credit scene that just happens before the credits, where it feels like the movie ends and then just more is happening, and it is just kind of in the same way that post-credit scenes get you hyped for the next movie. This is getting you hyped for this.
But those are my problems. I will.
Where would you rank it?
I'm with Nick. This is definitely below Return of the Jedi. Like, this is only above Revenge of the Sith because I think they have, like, the same major problems, but because this is actually, for the most part, a coherent story. Yeah, like a coherent story and well made and stuff.
It's coherent.
And so
this was actually coherent.
So that's it for me. So that's my opinion, and I will give him my vote, and then I'll hide away until I have to do this all over again.
Go to Dagobah
for Last Jedi. So
it's got to be great.
Can someone please Photoshop Barrett hiding out on Dagobah? With Yoda.
Please do. Who here thinks it's better than Attack of the Clones? We all raise our hands. Who think it's better than Phantom Menace? We all raise our hands. Who think it's better than Revenge of the Sith? We all raise our hands. Who thinks it's better than Return of the Jedi? Me, Andy, and Kevin raise our hands. Who thinks it's better than The Force Awakens? Kevin raises his hands. The new ranking of the Star Wars universe. Number 1, Empire Strikes Back. Number 2, A New Hope. Number 3, The Force Awakens. Number 4, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Number 5, Return of the Jedi. Number 6, Revenge of the Sith. Number 7, The Phantom Menace. Number 8, Attack of the Clones. This Friday, we will be doing The Mandalorian Chapter 3. And then next week, we will be coming in hot with... Wait, no, next week we're not doing anything.
Thanksgiving.
Next week is Thanksgiving, so we're off.
So then the following week, we are doing a lot of Star Wars in review. Monday will be Chapter 4 of The Mandalorian. Tuesday will be Star Wars Last Jedi. And then Friday will be Mandalorian Chapter 5. Ooh, get hype, baby. Until then.
May the Force be with you.